All right, let's delve into the English opening, do a little survey. So of course, 1c4. We're back in the old days, right? We have queen, bishop, pawn, 4, right? So c4, and then we have various responses. So of course, e5 is very popular, just to turn it into a reverse Sicilian, right? As if it were e4, c5. That's very popular. What do we have? Oh, those are so annoying. Let's see. We have, you can play c4, c5, the symmetrical English. Let me get rid of that 1 second. There we go. It's a new Lichess thing. We have c4. I mean, knight f6. You could kind of just black can play flexibly. So you kind of play it as if they're playing a Nimzo in, or either one, a Nimzo Indian, King's Indian. They can treat it like the Indian defenses. And often what happens is there's a transposition. So they end up playing d4 anyway. And then black can take their pick, and again, we're going into a King's Indian, Nimzo Indian. So in that case, we know what transposes, and that's another lecture or another book you can look into on that, or YouTube video. And then we have, yeah, but then again, obviously you don't have to transpose, and you can treat it purely as an English, which is what I've done. I mean, I have a ton of experience in the English. That's like what I did, kind of run up to NM and everything. Pretty much, throughout when I was very active in, I think part of high school too, before I took a big break, a long break. I think I was playing the English back then too, but definitely once I got back to it in like 2014, 2015, pretty much exclusively playing the English until now I do the king, bishop, pawn, f4 for fun. But they got these wing pawns. But the idea is really, in terms of breaking it down, the idea is you're controlling the d5 square, you're fighting for control of d5. And you can see when you're in fianchetto your bishop, which is consistent with the English. I mean, you don't have to, but it's very consistent, thematic, right? So let's say they're going like g6, for instance, bishop g2, something like this, but we're going to fight for the d5 square. So make it very hard for black to strike there. And we can get that, at least that portion of the center on the light squares. And then naturally black would fight for the dark square. So for example, if they're consistent in going for like a King's Indian setup, and I personally like doing this e3 stuff, e5, so you get the knight on e2, knight e2, and then you don't block your bishop. And so again, just roughly this type of thing, we're fighting for the d5 square. So we have a pawn, a knight, and a bishop all fighting for d5. And then black, you can see, let's say they go knight c6, just to, just a rough example, right? Just to start. We see that black has a lot of pressure on the dark squares, but you can also see that we can take those too. We can fight for those dark squares with d4, and maybe black hopes to bypass. But certainly, you have the first move, and you should get a good portion of the center. So often, what ends up happening is you get flank play, or black will play on the king side, since you go with your pawn chain aiming toward the queen side, and there's aims toward the king side. So let's go with, for example, c4, e5. Do knight c3 or g3. I like g3. We can do knight c3, very common, and knight c6. So again, this is black treating it as though it's close Sicilian, reversed. Like g3, you can bring out the bishop, or they can go g6, bishop g2, bishop g7. So for instance, like right now, we have our pawn chains, white's aiming to the left of the queen side, and black aiming to the right on the king side. So we can see the natural plans here would be, again, controlling d5 for white, and black is looking very clearly, like I said, this is a better example where black is fighting for the d4 square. And you'll see these Botvinnik systems as well. So for example, I mean, white can choose to play a Botvinnik system right now with e4. Now they're really doubling down, or quadrupling down, I guess, on the d5 square, right? Really fighting for control. So it's going to be very hard for black to strike, obviously. They can try and play c6 and strike, but really you're seeing white going for a light squared game, and black is playing a dark squared game, where black, of course, would hope to stick the knight, as we've seen on the weekend, d4 square. And then, of course, white would try to neutralize that, say, hey, it doesn't really matter. It's moot because I've got a knight and a bishop to cover it, and I'm hoping that my light square control will yield something. My knight could come in, could push the f pawn and push the b pawn. And interestingly, in a Botvinnik system, the pawns are looking both directions. You can play on both. But generally speaking, in English, you might even go knight f3. This is pretty typical. I like e3 knight. Again, I like e3 knight g2. That's the great snake system. You got the e4 system, the Botvinnik system. And you got knight f3, which is, I think, kind of just classic. You see over here, it says King's English with the bishop fianchetto, but that's pretty typical, right? Because if you're going to play c4 and knight c3, you're going to play for d5. Very consistent to go bishop g2. And again, the light square control, it extends beyond that. You have the queen side pushes of b4, b5. So go maybe rook b1, b4, b5. If black tries a5, you have to go a3 first, probably. Get your b4, b5 in, which we'd say loosens the diagonal. Kind of loosens it up, unravels it a bit for the bishop. Maybe they play c6, for example. You can kick it, you can punch at that, right? Whether it's a knight or the c pawn, you're trying to unleash the bishop. So again, that's part, it's your light squared play rather, but it's extending beyond the center, going hopefully to take the rook, or just to tie him down. Like maybe they have to go rook b8 in some cases. You get a lot of play on the queen side though. And again, for black, looking at it from black's perspective, they often want to go f5 and get the knight behind it, castle, maybe bishop e6 and queen d6 pressing toward the king side, and then try and go f5, f4 maybe, or push the. But keep in mind, that you give squares, you get some squares, you give some squares. If you start pushing, white's getting all those light squares. You're giving up some control if you keep pushing your f pawn. So white's really hoping to latch onto those light squares and not just say, oh, I have them for the sake of having them. Well, first of all, it restrains black's play. And secondly, allows white to occupy those, as we've seen like in the hypermodern lecture we did, where we saw, for example, I think it was Larson who played like that. And he was able to use those central squares. And you see like two knights occupying and hopping all over the place. Maybe you see another knight coming to c6 at the pawn, things like that. So you really start seeing the light square control is relevant. And again, like I said, if you go e3, it's like one of those one-way mirror situations where like whoever goes c5 or whoever pushes the two pawns like this, they're weakening that's the square here. So let me just mix it up. For example, let's say, how would that happen? Like, let's just say, like just something not, quiet, but black, if they want, can ultimately get c5 in, right? So for instance, something like this, move order might be different, but black can do this for sure. So basically we're saying, all right, we're getting this. Actually, yeah, this is a line, see 50 times here. Interestingly enough, that was fine for black in this line. But for some reason, I don't know, it changes, right? It says 36% versus 23%, then it changes. You have to play a few moves in. But you can see that basically white's like, okay, I'm fighting for that d5 square. And black didn't even make an effort to stop white from doing so. But again, just like we talked about from white's perspective, in a botvinnik, again, you weaken d5, strengthen dark square control. So again, trying to take that portion of the center, because you got the bishop looking x-raying through the e-pawns, the knight's looking there. So again, it would intimidate white from kind of pushing, trying to grab some space. But again, the d5 square, and they're hoping that they would go bishop e6, knight g7, and then maybe take it and fill in that square with the pawn, rather than having a knight just sit there with impunity, having an outpost in black's position. So does that make sense? We've seen some of that, right? Does that make sense to you guys, the importance of fighting for d5/d4 for black? But you can see that somehow it seems like in a lot of cases, in the English, you can hope to have the better of it in terms of these counterpart squares. You want to have the better of it and say, I'm going to get that square, you're not getting d4, I get d5 and beyond. But here, for example, you're seeing black going e5. Obviously, they block the bishop and say, oh, King's Indian type setup, like this, for example, with the pawn chain, but you're blocking the bishop. It's not that big of a deal, though, because first of all, you're grabbing dark squares enhanced by the bishop. And secondly, you can maybe play a 5e4. Like it's not like that bishop can never come out and unleash itself. That's actually an important theme. So yeah, I mean, either way, they don't have to play 5. Again, there's so many formations. So we'll look into that. You can have a pawn chain like this, c6, c7, d6, e5. You can have this formation more of a botvinnik, and you can have the formation more of a symmetrical English. So for example, maybe black just chooses to play kind of modestly. Okay, let's say we have the knight c3 thing again. Personally, I actually like b3 like Petrosian did here. There's a nice line. See, b3 even scores 34%. It scores pretty well overall, but it's a fine move to do to the double fianchetto. But let's just say something like this happens and just kind of copy each other. I like playing e3. So a lot of people, what do they do here? Maybe d3, maybe not. Let's just say something natural. I don't like doing this personally, but this is certainly the main line. Main line, you can certainly explore this. So just choose the one you want to look into. But this says symmetrical variation. The 3 knights, well, 3 knights so far, might be 4 knights, I guess. Now it's full symmetrical version, right? But the thing about this, we'll see, but you block your bishop, but you might try to play for some breaks in the center. Just like simple, very direct play. But let's say this happens, just an example, that's the most popular move, right? By a bit, quite a bit. At least in this is not a comprehensive database. We see 2,900 times, knight f3, and 1,900 times, 2,000 times about with a3, which is interesting too. We'll get into all that, but e3, as I like to play, that's actually dead equal. And that's why partially I like to play more aggressive systems. But then you can certainly do it, but that's kind of the line. Like if black is really trying to play for a draw, it can just keep copying, and you can see it's very drawish. So, but that's maybe why white would attempt. Well, here you go, 28% versus 26%. So symmetrical can be very drawish. That's actually why I would try to mix it up with B3, get the fianchetto before they do. Anyway, so we have this line. But for example, here, like I said about a different formation black can take up would be like this pawn chain. So now they're not blocking the bishop. So you can block the bishop this way, you can go this way, you can move both your pawns to c5, e5. You can do the other thing, which would be to go to e6. There's many ways, and conversely, white can do that too. That's well, especially from a symmetrical, you could both kind of take your pick. But I do think, yeah, you'll see the scores though with e6. You'll notice that this type of setup does score the best. But for example, this is, yeah, again, this is more modest. The bishop is open. Somehow, yeah, black's, well, again, I would take that with a grain of salt, but you're seeing black is scoring fine. Let's see, castles. And let me guess, e6, there you go. Yeah. See, e6 just scores well. Just keep that in mind. Yeah, a guy played this against me. We ended up drawing once, like a 2200. He played knight h6 to f5. It's kind of interesting too, because the idea is like, it's just sort of a sideline. But the idea there, it's interesting. Because like, let's say we just do something natural like d3, then knight f5. You don't really want to go e4 because you're like just inviting the knight in, right? Say take, okay, I'm just gonna, that's the idea. Drawish, but I mean, I'm sure the computer probably says black's doing well. Light, see, it's beginning to tilt in black's favor a tad, right? But if anything, black's fine, But that's just positionally speaking, it's a great knight, right? And white, as you see, white has a weakness because they have lost the ability. What's the weakness? Pawns have lost the ability to control the square, so it's a permanent weak point. And you latch onto it, you use it in the outpost. So whichever side it is, they can both try to create the outpost. So you can see it's very much, it's a mirror image, or kind of can work conversely. English, symmetrical English, reverse Sicilian. It just depends which side's doing it. But that's why it's important to kind of just understand the structures and opt for the one you want. So maybe you like this thing. Again, if it's me, partially based on, because I know it scores well and it works well for me. So I would be going for more like an E3 thing, and the knight G2, and there you go again, right? See, now it's scoring well for white. So maybe it's a little secret that you should. Well, I mean, you can see it makes a lot of sense, right? Because it opens up the bishop. It doesn't block the bishop. There's another trick too, which is that it allows you to use your F pawn, which is kind of fun, which of course I like to do since I like to play the bird opening. But you can actually use the F pawn aggressively or defensively. So I'll show you a bit of that too, as we look into some games. There's one drawback though, guys. What do you think? Like I mentioned, when you play C5 and E5, for example, either side, but let's say black chooses to play a Botvinnik system, they've weakened D5. So when you play this one, you've certainly latched onto, you've guarded D4. Black is probably not going to play that anytime soon, unless they provoke you to push. So maybe they'll try and go F5, F4, like make you take away from it or something like that. Black would hope to do so. Maybe black goes for like their own thing, like A6, B5, and starts to, push, try to loosen that up themselves, right? So black has very similar ideas in many cases. But again, well, this is symmetrical insofar as the pawns are matched, right? C5, C4 pawns are symmetrical, but obviously we don't want full symmetry if we're fighting for something. Going back to, unfortunately, Jeremy Stillman, who just died, going back to his idea of imbalances. So I'm learning from his method. I'm always very actively trying to create imbalances. It's a way of playing uncompromisingly, right? So you want to be an uncompromising player because you're trying to win. You're trying to assert yourself. I mean, I get it. You want to be solid too. That makes sense. To be eclectic, to be balanced. That's good. But if you're playing to win, the point is, you're trying to create something to work with, right? So if you do pure symmetry, like I showed you earlier, there's not much going on, and it's very drawish. I mean, you can maybe get a minuscule advantage, but it's very difficult. At any rate, yeah, this is a good system, and you can either play D3 or D4. Magnus Carlsen and Kasparov have actually used this aggressively against people who go for E5 and F5, which I'll show you them. That's a critical position. Like a Grand Prix attack reversed is very aggressive, right? But they've actually done this and played like D3 and even B3, and played solidly rather against the most aggressive system. And even, yeah, you can go for A3, B4. You can keep it tight with D3, B3. Or you can go for D4. So the point is, there's a lot going on, but the point is it's just super flexible, as you can see. But there's one deficit, Just like if they play e5, they weaken d5 for black, or e4 weakening d4 for white. So we're using that same thinking method about looking for weak squares, the same kind of theory. Where would be the weak squares? Arguably, especially one in particular, but you can cover it. So the question is it attackable? But theoretically, there are weak squares in white's position, which in a way looks like a novice, what a novice might do, but it's not. As you can see, it scores well at the master level. But fundamentally, where are those weaknesses, guys? What are you seeing?
Before your question, I saw a question from Xander that was asking,
Okay.
It says, how in the master's database, how does the English score against players in the 1000 to 1600 ELO range?
You're saying if we take it away from masters and filter it?
I think he wanted to ask that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's interesting. We can play around with that. That'll be interesting to see. I mean, I would imagine it's interesting. Often I was talking with my student earlier. Often you'll be looking at an opening, and the line is not like that great, but maybe it's something that had been written about in chess informant or some theoretical thing, right? So that really some really strong players know about it and are playing it, even though it's maybe subpar, just like equal. There's a really high winning rate just because they're strong players that are playing it. So it's actually one of those things where it's like you could do a study on it, right? But it's kind of like, but you're doing you're using this as a laboratory. So a lot of people who are into statistics and stuff, they like openings. It's like it's a laboratory, right? But anyway, so in that case, it would be a proxy. The moves would be proxy for strength of players. But then you can filter, I guess, especially if you use chess base, you can really get into the nitty gritty there if you want to be kind of if you want to get wonky about it. But I like Lee chess is great because it's really, it's free, so it's democratized. Like much of the internet has really democratized this and made it available to anyone for free. Whereas before it was more elitist in the sense that you would have to afford chess base. Interestingly, when I met the guys from Chess Base India, they said one of the ideas was to actually make it available because India is the largest population in the world now and a really thriving chess community, to make it affordable. I mean, obviously in India, a lot of the best players are rich, or they have the resources. But then again, you have schools like that were created in Calcutta. But anyone, of course, obviously those with resources are able to exploit the rating system and so forth better, able to play in these closed tournaments and this and that, get the best coaching. But the idea is at least to attempt to democratize chess base through chess base. I'm not sure how much it is, but it's supposed to be cheaper. But otherwise, I know it's like whatever they call it, 300 euros or whatever it is. I think it's from Germany, right? So anyway, it's like hundreds of euros over there. So it's very expensive. Whereas Lee chess, just an aside, so you have all these all the data in front of you, and I've mentioned before that like I think each site has its benefits, like chess.com, to the extent that you can access it for free, but there's a little bit you can go into and you can filter by rating. So you see the top players that play, for example, this position. Whereas now, see if you look at this one, you're seeing top game. No, it's different. It's average rating, I think. So it's not like top player by white. So you might see a top player. You're going to see average, I think. Whereas on chess.com, you could just do it by rating. So you might be like, oh, well, I'm going to see Carlsen. He might be playing a 2000, but I might just see him completely whip a 2000, complete one-sided route. But it's different, right? Whereas, and then 365 chess.com shows the players who play it most frequently. So it's by frequency. So for example, we might see a couple times Grishuk playing it here, maybe twice. What if Grishuk was a 2500 and he played it a bunch when he was like 15 or something? Well, that wouldn't show up here most likely, right? But if you look at that one, but whatever, or maybe it's an IM. Maybe it's an IM who's a 23 or 2400 who's amazing in that line, and it wouldn't show up for you. So it's about how you filter it. And I don't think you can filter that. You'd have to really delve into it. But so you have 365chess.com, leechess.org, chess.com. Those are the three that I would use. But mostly Lee Chess, it's just very easy. But then definitely chess.com. And I use all three because I do like all the benefits. Like sometimes I just do want to know like who is the strongest player that plays this position. But still, if you look at this, you're pretty much going to get a sense. But again, like I said, it's averaged. So you see Nakamura only when he plays it against the 2700. And maybe there's an opening that he would only play against a 2500 or so, a weaker player. He wouldn't essay something against someone of his own, approximately within 50 points of him, you see. So there's benefits, there's drawbacks, right? Now, as for anyway, getting to the data here, this is the Masters database, which is of course very good to look at because you'll see top level play. And obviously you can pretty much trust that they've done some analysis, that they've done their analysis on this. And at any rate, it's going to be high quality play. But then again, you have to filter it as well to know, oh, maybe this was played in the 60s or something, and the theory has been developed since then. So if you look at like old openings, averaged out, it might be skewed because it's been improved since then, which is why people read Chess Informant or something and get really wonky about it. Anyway, at any rate, I don't get really wonky about it, but I do like to explore these things. And that way, if I play a game, I can easily review it and then I'll memorize it based on my actual experience and immediate review, like we said with Lynn, of losing a game, for example. So anyway, that's kind of what you can look into there. But I think I did something else. I did a video on that, kind of using those as hacks where you don't have to like just get books and or read Informant or whatever the, what's it called? There's Informant and there's another couple of, you know, prominent ones. They're not just like Chess Life, but they're like international ones that I think Informant is the main one though, that gets really in depth, you know, opening theory. But yeah, obviously I'm not into that. I'm really into Chess 960 and no opening theory, but you do have to know to some degree. So for example, what we're talking about, going back to this, is you see this is structural in a sense. So we're looking at, and like that's, and coming back to this position. So yeah, it looks almost like a novice in a way. A novice sometimes will either play A4 and H4, and they'll bring up their rooks, right? You've seen that probably. And you've also seen, maybe you've tried this, moving every other pawn, thinking it's a fortress. Have you guys ever done that when you were starting out maybe, or seen an amateur do that?
Yeah.
And look, we're doing it a lot. And funny enough, sometimes we'll play A3. This might actually wait. It's probably a move, isn't it? A3 is a move, and its score is about even. Oh, that's in the entire VChess database. A3 is not a move yet. Oh, what's that, Nikki?
They call it, anytime I see my students do it, they just do it with their pawns, and I call it the checker defense.
Checker, right? Exactly. It's like you're playing checkers, and unfortunately, oh, I can't do. Oh, yeah, actually, you can take diagonally, but only if they invite you to. So castles, and then I bet you, oh, look, there it goes, A3. Okay, white only scores half, but out of a sample size of 1% of the games, 4 of them, but from this position. But funny enough, you can do that. You can literally move every other, even though it's twice, it's still weakening similar, but that gets to it. So yeah, it looks like amateur moves. They are covering, and you're covering important squares, but fundamentally, imagine we're going to look at this bare bones. Black is more solid than white at the moment. It's a little more modest setup. Black has flexibility. Why? Where are the weaknesses? I'll make X's on them. Where are the weaknesses in white's position? Oh, and then Xander, I'm going to open up. Then I'm going to open up the broader database so we can tinker with that a bit.
D3 is a weakness for white.
Exactly. D3, and you're seeing that's a glaring weakness, because not only is it unable to be guarded by a pawn, it's just waiting for a knight to jump in there. Too bad there's not a rook here or something, would be a checkmate, right? But you can imagine that could get ugly. But at the same time, it's like you play D3. It's like, okay, then the knight has to go by. You want to go bishop F5, you could play E4, knight E4. You know what I mean? So I've dealt with all that before, and it's like, is it attackable? I mean, there are a lot of things that you can get to. I mean, for example, C7, right? But can you get there? I mean, it's there, right? If you're playing bug house with the bags, you would like drop a knight and fork them or something, right? But it's not accessible now. You're not like, you don't have like 2 knights in there. You know what I mean? You don't have a bishop supporting, right? You'll get kicked out. So it's not. So the question is it really attackable? But yes, is it fundamentally a weakness? It is. So let me make some stamps on there. X. Where else is a weakness? Again, not now weak fundamentally. Again, think of it bare bones. Like it might be guarded by something now, but that doesn't mean that it will forever be guarded by that piece.
Yeah, would you think F3 is a weakness as well?
You're on fire. You're on fire, Lynn. Yeah, get those X's in there. And what's the other one? Since you're on it, where's another place that can't be defended by a pawn? At least for example, like C4 is definitely not, because C4 could be guarded by C4. I'll give that a check mark. That one gets a check mark because that can be guarded by B3 and D3, right? So that's not a weakness. But so where would the other one be?
H3.
Exactly. So those will be the main ones. And yeah, but the more I think about it, though, you know, really it's the question of attackability is, you know, so if you think about it, like you don't really learn it that way. But the more I think about it, is like, look, every pawn is fundamentally weak. Well, it's kind of like you said, the 7th rank is weak and the 2nd rank is weak. But usually we think about that, you know, things have been traded and the rooks come in. But no, fundamentally, the 7th and 8th ranks they're just weak. They're just weak to begin with, and the 1st and 2nd, because they don't have pawns controlling them. Now, the thing is, though, they're not really attackable, but that's where you see the F7 and F2 pawn, because those are more attackable because they're only guarded by a king. And not only that, but if you get there, the reward is very big, right? So you see, and similar to C7, C2. So those you're seeing the attackability because they're only guarded by the queen. B2. What if the bishop gets a little too hasty and comes out to f4? Oh, that's the London opening, right? In the London system. Oh, and then queen. I was funny. I was just looking at that before. But then, you know, you want to try and usually go queen b6 and make them embarrassed a little bit. Say, okay, are you going to give me your pawn? Make them, because in the London, white often wants to play calmly and say, oh, I got things under control and I'm going to attack you and nothing's going to happen to me. But they're like, okay, am I sure I want to do this? Is it a poison pawn or not? Anyway, that's a weakness. So anyway, that's a different discussion, but no, it is related to this. Again, I'm touting the system, but you have to know that there are weaknesses. So for example, let's say bishop goes to g4, queen d7. We know we like this. People tend to like to come in, right? To trade off the bishop. Well, that's a case in point. If we trade off those bishops, then the weakness is that they're just as they look, as we've pointed to, just like the d3 square, f3, h3. And we love to play, oh, I don't know, maybe knight e5, maybe e5, e4, knight e5. Let's check. Let's try and get a queen in there and checkmate. Let's go h5, h4. You know, move the king, get the rook over. Let's bust it open. Let's go f5. Let's just throw everything in white's position. So you can imagine, and see similarly, no, black's position. Well, there's h6. Anytime you move a g pawn, keep in mind. That's why we talk about, John, why is it that g4, the grob, you're just kind of breaking down the theory, but why is it that the grob is known as not that good? Well, it does actually open up the bishop, but it weakens immediately. You're weakening h3 and h4. See, like they were not theoretically weak because this is already guarded. h4, the only reason it's not weak is because it has the ability to be guarded by g3, right? The moment you go g4, oops, you made that decision in your chess life and you don't have the ability to guard it again. Here we can guard f4. You move e4, like you see, you move e4, let's say e5. Terrible move, g4. This would just be bad in this position. And black is just from the start, black has a very clear plan. So Silman technique, what are the imbalances? Oh, f4 is a weak square. Let's get in there. Let's get in there with the bishop. Let's get in there with the knight. Let's bust things open, right? Let's try and play out h5. Let's just get in there, right? But I have something, right? Playing with black, like, oh, I have something right on the second move. I know what I want to do. We don't, yeah, maybe we could play queen h4 too. Going to get our pieces. We're going to harvest those weak squares, right? We're going to bust it open and get in there. So you can see anyway, this is just an extended version, right? But we'd still have, now we would have weaknesses on the third and the fourth rank. If we had to push this, if we were to play, let's make this in English now. Now we've created more weaknesses, right? So anyway, but this is just an extended, like extended fianchetto. Funny enough, that's called an extended fianchetto rather than a regular fianchetto when you move twice. But anyway, so that's an aside. But going back to this, let's just look at this position or something similar. See you, Stevie. Hopefully I didn't say too much.
Stevie.
Oh, okay. Oh, you have to head out. Okay, awesome. That she'll be back. All right, nice meeting you, Stevie. I didn't scare her. I hope I didn't scare her off.
Nah.
All right. So anyway, but yeah, there's a lot going on there. Now to go back to, let's say, for example, the position we were on. Where were we? Is this it? Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
So we have, again, there are weaknesses. You just have to be aware of it. But like what I'm getting at is like, it's like Fisher said, you got to give squares to get squares. I mean, they're all weaknesses, right? Knowing that, but like you can't avoid that. It's like a good analogy for life too, I think, right? It's like, or like that quote about like letting your ship off the, you know, letting your ship off the dock, right? It's like, even if it's on the dock, it's going to get hit. Funny enough, I just saw about the tornado, hurricane warnings, like, oh, there may be some ships that get unmoored or something, right? But even if it's on the dock, there's danger. But I mean, you have to, if you want to do anything, there's going to be some danger, right? So what I'm saying is, yeah, even if you don't, right, but the weaknesses are there no matter what. But when you do, and if you want to do, and if you sit there, you're going to get pummeled, because it's not, like I said, the best defense is a good offense, right? If you sit there, you will get pummeled eventually, right? Because they're going to develop and swarm around you, because they will hit weak points that you have. They just need to access them, and you'll give them time, and they're going to gain time through pawn sacrifices and this and that. So anyway, when you start, if you want to do things in chess, just like in life, you know, you're going to have to take some risks and take on some weaknesses, but do it for the glory, right? No, you're living your life, right? But you can do so. No, and that's the thing, though. You don't have to be crazy about it, right? You can be somewhat conservative too as you're doing it. And like, well, if you're a super conservative player, yeah, that's probably not a good thing. We've talked about that, right? You don't want to be too cautious, but you can. But you certainly want a dose of prudence, right? And you want to balance attack and defense. So, for example, in this position, in the English, we've taken on, anytime you have a G3, we're weakening some squares, especially here. Same thing with E4, E3, right? Like I said, it's just extended. It's even weaker now. Now E4, we'd have those weaknesses in addition to to d3. See, d4 is strong. Now we can do d4, right? So you just have to be aware of that. Like I said, if knight b4 is coming, like, oh, I know I've got d3 now. My queen covers. If the bishop f5, hey, you don't even have to go. You might provoke that. But let's say you have d3 in. Let's just say as an example, let's say you castle, bishop f5, d3. They really want to go after it. I mean, you can either go e4 or you can block. I mean, you could really go for Botvinnik now and be like, okay, fine. Maybe I'll play like an aggressive version of the Botvinnik and I'm going to like punch at you soon or like do this. And it's like, okay, actually, I'm fine playing the Botvinnik system. I've taken out a weakness, but now I'm about to crush you because you've just actually black has helped white get a good version of it by running around with his pieces, you know, aimlessly. So anyway, it's like, yeah, even though the Botvinnik might have its weaknesses, like same with this, it has its weaknesses, doesn't mean it's bad. It's just all about how you use it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. So anyway, yeah. So as you can see, statistically, this is
Bye,
knight
Leah.
g2, knight c6. See you later.
Bye, Leah.
So we have castles. Now, where is this scoring? I know it's supposed to score pretty well. So we have even scores right now, but this is where I'm going to check with Xander. So let's say bishop b6 though, and then I would probably go h3 here. No, you know what? No, they're going to go d5. That's the problem. They're going to get bishop h3 if they really want to. That's the thing. I don't love that. But knight g5, queen d7. They want that. It's annoying, right?
Very.
And that's where they're going. Rook
No way
b1,
to
b4,
stop it.
b5. You're gonna have to let them in, I guess. But oh, here we go. Interestingly, so master games, they ignore them.
Yeah.
So they get their action going over here. Say, okay, fine, you take, I take. But as you can see, it's way weaker. No, it's way weaker than it used to be because the bishop. Now the king is the one who's responsible for guarding those squares. So it's an interesting case in point. But the thing is, when you play an opening like this, like you'll learn all about that. When you play a dragon, you'll learn all about your opponent coming to take your bishop and trying to stack and mate on the H file. But you'll also learn some amazing defenses against it. Or for just as an aside, for example, if you're going to take the rook sometimes, like if they let you take the rook and win the exchange, then they're trying to hit you there. You can also play f3, e4. So you simply reinforce, you stick your pawns on line squares, you reinforce. That's one way to deal with this. But also no one's reaching you now, right? So for example, through your central control and light squares, you're not letting them go e4 and anchor in the knight. Like let's say your knight's here, you're just going to take it. Or even if they didn't now, like they can do this. Actually, you can probably, speaking of which, you can probably take the knight and then take. So they still can't even do it now, right? But point is, you're not going to make it easy for them. You're going to keep a grip on the light squares. Yeah, otherwise black will start pushing and bothering you and start pressing coming in, right? So yeah, that's a thing, right? It's relevant, but you have to be aware. The most important thing is that you're cognizant of it. Now, Xander, are you ready? Okay, let's see. I know you're ready to see how amateurs do. We can filter it a little bit. So let's see, just from this position. I mean, I don't know what rating they'd even play this. I doubt the lower rated players would do this maybe after 1400 or 1500. Let's say Wii chess.
Yeah,
So
that's
we're
what I
gonna
was
go-
wondering. Like, I didn't imagine we'd get too much into the theory of the English at the level that we're
Right.
at. So knowing
And
the
I'm
basic
guessing.
ideas, yeah.
What's that?
But knowing the basic ideas allows you to set up an attacking strategy on the early side while your opponent's still trying to sort of struggle to figure out where to put their pieces.
Exactly, and that's the thing that I love about it, because like if you know the English pretty well, it's like an example where if someone doesn't know the Sicilian as white, they play bishop c4, they get hit by d5 and a6 b5. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So you play the English, and maybe they're treating the English like they treat e4, e5, or it's like someone who plays d4, d5, and they stick the knight on c3, which is not always terrible, but pretty much it is, because you're not supposed to. If you have d4, d5, you're supposed to be able to play at least c3 or c4. Like the Jabava London, a little anti-positional, but especially, yeah, if you have the black pieces, you need to strike back. You go knight c6, you can't play c5. You better get e5, and then you got to get a break, right? Otherwise, you're just going to be sitting passively. So it's kind of like that, where people treat some openings, like especially amateurs, they'll treat everything like it's a 4 knights game, right? So so my guess is you're definitely going to see more of knight f3 at the amateur level. I mean, because this is a more sophisticated concept. We just know that it scores well at the master level, which is why I started playing it, because I looked it up and I'm like, yeah, it actually makes. I may have experimented with it, but I'm like, look, it scores well. I like it. The computer likes it. Okay, let's do it. And it's going well for me. And I kept using it, right? And I love that. Like I said, there's f4 idea, and it doesn't block the bishop, and it keeps control of d4. So anyway, I would advocate for that. But a lot of people like the Botvinnik. You know, again, take on the weakness. But you will see a lot of Botvinnik, actually. You're going to definitely see more Botvinnik than this kind of great snake setup. And you'll probably see a lot of knight f3. Let's see what they do. So we are looking at the entire database. Let's filter. Why don't we do under what? Under 15, 1600. How about that?
Yeah, sounds great.
Let's do under 1600. I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's just what they play, whatever time control.
Kill the
I mean,
1800.
1800. Okay, 1800 and below. What's that?
Oh, I was going to say kill the 1800 because
Kill the 18. Okay, yeah. So more
those
like
people are
club,
studying
like club players. Well,
Yeah.
actually, in League Chess, in League Chess, it's inflated anyway. But
Oh, right.
yeah. No, it's fine. But you'll get a good idea. And then if it doesn't make sense, we can go to 18. But no, you'll get a good idea. Funny enough, this has been played 7,600. No, Castles has been played. So it's been played quite a bit. Interesting. I mean, I guess, well, the thing is that they're also been put in correspondence games and like look up the moves and stuff. But the thing is, like, just because you're a 1500 doesn't mean you don't know your theory. It just might mean that like you got to work on your end game or your decision making, or you're missing, you might be a brilliant player, but like you just don't look out for your opponent's tactical blows and you lose a bunch of games that way, right? When you should have won. So it's interesting. A lot of people have that problem. They're just not good defenders. That's like probably one of the most common, fundamentally going back to like beginners that are just like not looking at the scholar's mate, or like not noticing that a piece is hanging or something, right? But then it simply gets more sophisticated. But yeah, in the English, you have to be a good defender. Anyway, so funny enough, this has been played quite a bit though. Castles, Knight G2. I did not expect it to be played. Knight G2 is played 165,000 times. I did not expect that. Did you?
No.
Under 1,600 or 1,600 top, right? So Knight G2. Now I would want to take. I bet you would take away correspondence. So go down a lot because correspondence you have time. I think you can look up the move. So E5.
You could filter against that. You could turn correspondence off.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm going to take it off and see if it changes. I bet you it'll change a lot.
Hmm.
But White is scoring better. White likes to see it. Now, a lot of more advanced players wouldn't even go for D4. Actually, funny enough, I just saw a Carlsen game yesterday where he did do D4. Well, let's see this. So it's scoring pretty well for White. And they often take, and they shouldn't do that because they're losing their foothold in the center. They're trading an E5 pawn for an E3 pawn. So anyway, we're seeing a lot of interesting concepts.
Xander, what state are you from?
What's that?
What state does Xander live in?
He's in Virginia, right?
No, I'm in Maryland. I'm on the eastern shore of Maryland.
Oh, you teach in Virginia or something, right?
Okay.
You teach in Virginia, Xander?
No, I work for a government contractor in Maryland as well.
Oh, somehow I thought you were a professor in Virginia. No, I'm mixing it up.
No, I just talk like one.
What?
Play one on
No,
TV.
wait. No, am I mixing you up? Okay. Wait. Oh, this is maybe he's a spy or something. He's no, he said he's a contractor. But I thought you do math, right?
That's right. Yeah, I do math.
Right. But anyway, no, somehow I was thinking Virginia. But so D4 takes. But yeah, we're in the DC area, so still you never know. You gotta keep it on the DL, right? Especially if it's being recorded, don't want to out any spies on here. So so D4 takes. Okay. So we have Bishop G4, which is very natural. H3. So it's interesting how you'll see, but the way in which you'll see him play. But this is great for White, of course. You got to take with the knight. You take with the queen. Black scores 57% because they just picked off a free pawn and take over the game, right? And then they could easily. This is knight. Actually, if Black knows what they're doing, they should probably tuck. I think they should tuck this knight away, like knight G7. Yeah, and then they score like 75%. Anyway, they take back, and then but it makes sense that they would go for this. Just take the center directly, And then White is scoring really well. Yeah, Bishop E3. I might do the same thing. And you've played H3, so you don't have to worry about knight G4. It's a pretty nice position out of the English, right? Scores well, understandably. Computer probably thinks that White's doing at least half a point up. It said half a point, then it decided 0.2. Nope, now it thinks it's even. It sees because it sees the D5 break. But let's see. I think it must have liked White itself. It did like White. There's a half a point. But it's thinking that Black should strike. Yeah, if Black doesn't strike, okay, we're looking at Rook E8. It probably doesn't like Bishop E3. Yeah, it says you should just go, oh, sure. See, knowing that D5 is a good break because they're fighting for the white squares. Like, look, let's go back to the fundamentals of the English. We happen to play D4, and as you saw, they got weak in that line when they weren't careful with the queen. But we're going for the light squares now. No more D5 for Black. Thanks. I'll take that. Knight has to move and Queen B3. That looks interesting to take. Anyway, you could probably take. No, interestingly, if you take this way. I think then they're going to be able to get the pawn back anyway, so it doesn't matter. And the knight came in, and there's like some exchange stack lines. I'm looking at some exchange stack line. It's kind of cool. But anyway, yeah. Anyway, it's you should probably take with the pawn, double your pawns, but then you keep developing. So it makes it harder for Black to play D5. Like I said, that's the idea of controlling the light squares. You get to either occupy it or you restrain your opponent. so they don't get there themselves, and it makes it hard for them to punch back. Now you could play d5 to directly do so, but then you give up dark squares, so you have to be careful about, and you block your bishop, so it looks very anti-positional to play a move like d. No amateurs did it. That's smart of them. I bet you it's not a good thing to go d5, because let's say knight e5 or knight e7. It's just saying, so computer to give us that says 0.5, 0.6, whereas it says, I thought it liked white, it liked knight c3 even more. Okay, it says it actually is not that against it, but I think it's anti-positional because it blocks the bishop. It gives some light squares, dark squares rather. So it's like, I wouldn't go for it. And it opens up this bishop more. So you can see it's like, no, just don't do it. You can do it later, but like, why? You want to use that for your knight if you have the chance. You can pin the knight. You could come in here, do lots of good stuff, right? Ideas of like coming in with the knight, taking on f6, and they play h6, win the h pawn, all sorts of tricks you can do. Anyway, so yeah, you see the amateurs. Now let's just see how many. Let's see what the difference is in terms of how many times this e3 thing is played. Let's see the differentiation. So right now, oh, that's interesting though. You see, so we're at, wait, let's double check. So we're at under 1600, right? Average rating, average I'm under 1600. Now there may have been one that was way higher rated. Okay, even with bullet, but let's see. Okay, so right now we have 156,000 doing e3, 145 doing knight f3, and 61,000 doing e4. Let's differentiate. So we can differentiate by, let's quickly do higher rated, including high rated, just to see quickly there. Wait, it's going back, right? Okay. So now we're seeing knight f3, e4. I think that was the same order though, right? Knight f3, no, the other way was e3 first, actually, wasn't it? It was, so it's knight f3, e3, e4. And then if we do this way, yeah, e3 first. Interesting. The lower rated players like what I do. And then if we do, okay, now let's take away, what is this? Correspondence. Let's take away correspondence and classical. Let's just do rapid, blitz, and bullet. Maybe not ultra bullet. Okay, let's see how it changes now. No, my assumption seems to be wrong, because e3 is still the thing to do. No, you know what it is? I mean, I guess people that they just study the English. If they play the English, they're like, look, I play the English, I know my g3 thing, I know my knight. But again, I think it's very easy to learn this, right? c4, knight c3, fianchetto your bishop, and like I said, it's really, this is your decision. Do you want to go knight f3? Do you want to go e3 and knight g2? Do you want to go e4? And then as we're beginning to see as well, we have this d4 idea, but then we're entering d4 territory, like a Catalan, or in this case, it would be like it'd actually be more of like the fianchetto variation of the King's Indian. So let's see if we have like d4, let's say castles. We're getting into like pure King's Indian now. Let's see, like, okay, knight bd7. And see, it's still saying English opening. Wait, hold on. Let's get into this. Let's transpose e5. Oh, it didn't want to change its mind. They're now decided to change its mind. Now it decided to change its mind that it's a King's Indian. Who headed up?
Xander.
See you, Xander.
Take care. See ya.
So at least you have, okay, at least you have the survey of different things and some general ideas. And then you can watch the video if you want. But
Cool.
Check out some things. Let me know. Feel free to send me an email. I'll try to be better at responding quicker. But any alliance you're thinking about or any games that you played, feel free to send them over.
Cool. Thanks. We'll see you soon.
All right, Xander. Thanks for coming by. Take care.
Bye.
Yeah, actually, he created like an algorithm to solve puzzles, I think, or he created some formula like check his puzzles or something like that. It was pretty cool. He's a mathematician. So e5, castles. Now that, yeah, he's still doing the hard work of solving, but it's more like, yeah, it's more like for checking, I think. So takes. This is just purely the fianchetto variation. And yeah, if it's me, I wouldn't, given that I like to play this more like hyper modern without taking the full center. So first you have hyper modern, where you play c4 and you don't take much center at all. Then you have more classical, we go c, or just like more typical d4, c4. But then if you really want to take the whole center, that's just not my style, because you let them punch back at you. So you can certainly play like knight f3, but this is still considered. Oh wait, let's enter this King's Indian stuff though. So for example, like this. So it's considering a King's Indian. Yeah, it's still, there's like there's the Ullman version, there's the Carlsbad version or whatever, but this is King's Indian. When obviously black fianchettos, because the King's Bishop fianchettos, if they don't, it's called an Old Indian with e5 and bishop e7. And then this is and then this is when white chooses the fianchetto, it's a fianchetto variation of the King, because they both fianchetto, but bishop e2 usually is played instead. Anyway, But it's interesting because you will see transpositions. So you start to see there's, especially with E3, you can support your D4 too. Yeah, so as we saw, and it doesn't really matter because interestingly, we're seeing that amateurs, oh, you know what? Did I take away? Oh, I didn't filter it well though, did I? Because when I included the 2500s, I don't think I took away the low-rated players, did I? That's going to make a difference. I think I just added them and I had everyone in their entirety, didn't I? Let's check that real quick because since Sandra mentioned that's interesting. So again, this position. So let's do the other thing. Okay, right now, what are they? I should say also, what are the differences? Okay, so we have castles 13,000 times. So we have castles D4 and B3. This is among. Oops. Oh, look, I've played this twice and I won. Cool. Oh yeah, you can actually. What's that?
We should look at those.
Oh, that would be interesting. Yeah, okay. Go back. It'll take me back to 2016. That's funny. No, actually, wait, to go back one more move, when you see black having options, it says no game found. Okay, wait, maybe a transport. I'm curious. No, but, you know, not exactly this, but let's say, well, it really, I mean, you could go back to whatever, but like G3, G6, yeah, let's say like this version. Let's say this. I'm sure you would, if you go to myself here, you see 44 games with E3 winning 61%. I mean, I'm very familiar with it. Yeah, not too shabby. So I can look at and see, I can learn and I can check my own statistics and cross-check that with whoever I want with the math. Plug it in real quick. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'll check it out. That'd be funny. Since we're on it. Okay, but I would like to show you, top play. Oh, I played against Uday too. That's interesting. Yeah, he's got me too. Okay. So anyway, let's go back to just quickly to filter.
Wait a minute, did you play against Magnus? Was that Magnus over there?
No, I don't think so.
Dr. Vickerson?
No, he does a joke, like a joke.
Oh, okay. I get confused.
Yeah, so we have C4, E5. Okay, where are we? This was so we were just like checking this one, right? Something like this, yeah. It just transposed. Okay, so again, going back to I meant to go Lichess database. I accidentally click player. So okay, so now we're going to shift it over to only 20 average rating 2,500 and above, I guess. That's gonna, you have to do that to really change it up. Maybe like to see highest quality maybe we can get. Now we are seeing, okay, let's go back to this decision. Aha, E3 again. So E3, just do E3, okay? No, they go D3, but I bet you a lot of them go D3 followed by E3. Probably some of them are going with knight F3 or E4 too. But you're gonna see there's the breakdown, just so you know. I mean, like, look, if you're gonna play the English, this is relevant because you're gonna see C4, E5 a lot, and you're gonna have to make a decision here. This is really a decision point. What move? Move 5. You're gonna have to figure out, do I want to just, I mean, the most obvious thing to do is just stick your knight there, but like you may want to make a very specific decision about going and again, this goes for black as well, because black could do something again. Well, if black chooses symmetrical basically, but I will show you black's choices and how they're gonna interact, and that's an interesting thing about, like, you say, oh, does black get to choose well, white gets to choose the English? Does black get to choose the version of English? You guys have probably thought about that, right? Like, who gets to choose? Well, it's a negotiation basically, right? Because then black can be like, oh, we're gonna go into this King's Indian type setup. I'm gonna do it with F5 now. And then white's going to be like, oh, I want to do it where I can punch you back, or I'm just going to like go knight F3 and like maybe get hit by E4, So it's really a negotiation. I mean, obviously white starts it's in English, and then black says, okay, it's going to be a reverse Sicilian now, and black says it's going to be closed. It's not going to be open with hitting with D5. Anyway, so let's.
So David, either side can transpose it at any time, even though you're starting out with the English. Black can transpose it to be whatever he wants it to be or she wants it to be.
In a lot of cases, and not all the time, but there are moments, right?
Okay.
There are moments where you can transpose, like for example, like right from the start, black can be like, I'm going to treat this like it's a D4 opening. And if white wants to play D4, it might be like, fine, I'll just play D4, and we're playing D4 now. That's what happened, actually, funny enough, in round 6 of Fischer versus Spassky, famous round 6, where he pulled ahead. Yeah, he pulled ahead, I think, at that point, because he lost round 1 through the blunder. He abandoned game 2. Then he won round 3, drew round 4, won round 5, won round 6. So he pulled ahead 3-2, and really of the games that they played, 3-1. So that was decisive. And in pawn sacrifice, that's where, Spassky stands up and claps. Have you guys heard about that? I think it happened. You have to ask some chess historians. I think it actually was supposed to apparently happen. Or at least Spassky was a gentleman, known to be a gentleman about it, not like a sore loser. Because he's like, look, this guy's a genius. Even though obviously the Soviet Union was not happy with him for being accommodating. Or
Wait,
anyway,
what's the story? I'm sorry. Can you just say it really quick? What's the story?
so apparently
Yeah,
Spassky.
that
So in this
story,
game,
David.
Fischer ends up playing like this, and then he ends up transposing later to and he threw him off with an English/G4 opening because Spassky, of course, was preparing E4. He started playing G4, so I threw him off. But yeah, Lynn, and then I played this amazing game. Look up round 6, Fischer Spassky round 6, 1972. And then apparently Spassky applauded at the end of that game,
Oh,
which
that's
was a turn, and that was the turning point. Well, it was already beginning, once he came back after round 2. So he comes back. I was looking at this recently, actually, where they took away the cameras because he was mad about the cameras. They're throwing him off. So he took away the cameras. There were still spectators, I think, but nobody saw it. Only the cameras
the
captured
Russian-
round 1. That's it. And then he
And
started
the
winning
Russian-
round 3, round 5. What's that?
And the Russians back home were not happy
Oh no! At least they didn't
when
have
he
to see
stood
it.
up and clapped.
Yeah, but at least they didn't have to see it televised. Oh, maybe that's why he did it.
Right.
Because if it had been televised, he would have gotten in really big trouble. Yeah, because then it would go viral. It would have been the 1970s version of viral, well, viral on mainstream media, right? At least outside of the USSR, right? They would not have shown that. Anyway, so C4. Yeah, so you can have anyway transpositional E6 then D5. I've had black play C6 against me. Say I'm going to play G5 no matter what. So you play D4, now we're in a slot. You may as well have played D4, D5. So that's very clear for transpositional stuff. And just to mention, since I'm on it, let's say like E6, maybe white will play a different way, more of a ready system. So knight F3, G5, and ignore the pawn and play G3. That's a ready system. It says Angkor, but you'll see like after knight. This is transposing to a ready system, the Neo-Catalan, okay, whatever. But it comes out of a ready system with knight F3 when you don't take. But yeah, you can play like, for example, there's actually a thing like that where they advocate. So if you don't want to play pure G4 systems, you can keep it as close to sort of English as you want with B3 castles, probably. And actually, there's a thing where like you go E3, Queen E2, I think it is. Let me see. Let's say B6, probably castles is a good idea. Bishop B7. You can play, yeah, E3 is the main move. That's what it was, yeah. So E3, let's say C5 is a natural move, main move, probably Queen E2 or Knight C3. Yep. So Knight C3 is inviting him to punch you with G4. I think most people would probably go Queen E2. Let me see. Funny enough, and those are the top 2 moves. That's interesting because I was like, it's funny. The computer waffles, I'm waffling, people are waffling. But I think I would, if I had to choose, I would probably go with Queen E2 myself. That's funny, right? It's really close, right? But I would probably go Queen E2. Now, what's the deal with Knight C3? Well, there's probably a clear justification for this. But I think we're going to create a target. Takes. Yeah, it's becoming a target. So what about No, you can't go E5. That's the problem. And obviously they can't take because then that's bad, right? The rook. So what happens is they can't go E5 to card it, and there are 3 attackers, and they'd have to push. Interestingly enough, that might look good, but it's actually just not that good because now it's probably
right?
gonna fall, and then you can like do this. It's gonna fall.
Yeah.
Right. So and now everyone won. Now everyone agrees. I like it. You guys like it. 3 people won. Computer says +1.7. Okay, it's good. And you get that control of the squares. Oh, that's in Cuba. Memories.
Oh.
Yeah, it's when it pops up. Hopefully, it's a good thing it wasn't like something streaming. Oh, that was a terrible memory. That was a good memory. It was in Havana. So B3. That's the way you can play. If you want to play it more like a pure English, kind of as close to, I guess, not avoiding D4, keeping it as an English as much as you can would be obviously to play something more. And interestingly, you can play something like a hedgehog. Just shows you, I mean, the thing about the English is the ultimate flexibility. So I'm jumping all over the place, but just shows you there are so many ways you can play it. So and I'll go back to the other line real quick. But Bishop G2, and let's say C5, for example, and castles, and Bishop B7, let's say, but you can, I mean, it's really a little different, but you can play this. Actually, let me not, that's fine. But it would be more against C5. But just to give you a sense, like if you really want to, pretty sure you can play this like with D, like kind of almost passive seeming. But I think b3, you do this way, but you don't, the point is you don't have to play d4. There are other ways you can play it too. You can play d3, knight bd2. Like let's say here, and then go bishop b7. And funny enough, this has been played. And now we can do e4. And the computer actually likes white here. Great. See? I mean, this is obviously passive for black. It's a thing though. But I don't know. E3 is tempting too, which is, it says it's slightly worse, but that's fine too, because again, the idea is you make a nice little setup. This is what I'm getting at. It's a hedgehog type system. And it's very nice. I mean, it's okay. Oh, one person lost. A 25-22 lost to a 25-05. A time about the same rating back in 2020, 2023. That's funny. So they just played this a few months ago, but 6 months ago or whatever. So anyway, yeah, but this is nice and tight. You can totally play like this from either side. So it just shows you the flexibility. Now, I mean, we were just kind of playing around with like levels of players who do it. That was interesting to look at, but I'm surprised actually. I think it's surprising that actually even higher rated players aren't really diverging that much from the lower rated players, right? In terms of the preferences in the English. But as you can see, I like it. A lot of people like the E3 thing. Let me just see where it was. Let's go back to it real quick. But now I want to show you a more aggressive thing that you can do. So again, we could have something like this or like this. And now we have, and again, this, I think now we're in the 2500s. Yeah. So we're looking at 2500 average rating, like 25 and above or something. I don't know exactly what that would be. 25 and below. What happened to the 26 and 20? I don't know. But I'm not sure about the very top one. Then we would just go to masters, basically, see the top, but I don't know. So we have all set. But yeah, we're seeing it score very well. Actually, castles, I think we're seeing increasing, and yeah, now we're seeing 49 versus 37. It'll oscillate a bit, but as you can see, it's a good way to play. But what I wanted to show you is, especially if you're playing with black, I mean, I gotta be fair for both sides, because this is what two GMs at least had played. I think two GMs and IM even, at least two GMs played F5 against me. So for example, I played E3 and they played F5 here. So it's like a Grand Prix reversed. Closed King's English, closed Sicilian, reversed. What is it calling it? Full. No, see, it's just getting confused. It's saying full symmetry. It's mixing things up. But anyway, it ultimately becomes like a reverse Grand Prix attack where white goes E4, F4 against the Sicilian. So if you know Grand Prix, you know this. White has an extra tempo. So you have knight F6, and this pretty much exactly, I think the positions I had against the GMs, they may have played C6 instead of knight C6, but I think it was the same thing. And yeah, white's scoring well, and I was fine going into this with them, but they just ended up outplaying me. Actually, I had one game against, I think it was against Azarov. His name's Sergei Azarov. I played him, I think I played him twice. But no, he beat me nicely, but it was interesting. I was down in exchange for a pawn, and I had a really nice bishop pair out of this position. But he ended up using his knight very effectively. It was an open game, but he like stuck his knight right in the center, and then his rook started coming in, and that was it. But yeah, he played beautifully. But yeah, I had a fighting chance for a while. It was down a point, right? But I had the bishop pair. That was pretty nice. But again, it was a battle of bishops and knights. His knight was better, and he had the rooks that I didn't. He had a rook that I didn't have, and his rook became effective. But the point is that he, and I think it was another GM or an IM also who played this. So it's valid, right, to play like this with black. So certainly, and let's see the statistics here. Let's go back to the Masters database. Let's see how it changes. Right here, 2500, we're seeing 52% white, 35% black. Let's see how it changes. Aha. So it's winning. It's more drawish among only masters. Interesting. But so black's winning more and white's winning more. It's actually black's winning a whole lot less here among just masters. Interesting. Okay. Let's see how black can play this though. So let's say white's going up for the b4, b5 thing. We can certainly go a5 and try to stop them, right? That's actually the main thing that people do. Why not? Let's look at that. Was someone going to say something?
No.
Okay. That's probably something in the background. So a3 to play b4. Why not? That's the thing to do. So it's interesting. You say, well, why are you going to play a5 if black going a5? If white's going to go b4 anyway, b4, b5. You got the play aiming here. Only difference again. Often the pawn will be on e E2, and again, you can see that it creates those weaknesses. If it's on E2, F3 is stronger. See, so there is a cost, but at the same time, well, if you're on E2, you can't stop knight G4 until you play E3, in which case F3 gets weakened anyway. So you see, it's kind of give and take, right? You can't cover everything. You just can't, right? You have to prioritize, but at least you're still pretty tight. You just got to know that these are covered, and black would love to trade off, you know, get in there with the bishop and, you know, start hitting the light squares, but you're not going to let that happen if you're playing white. If you're playing black, you're trying as hard as you can to open things up and get in there. Like I said, white wants to hold them off. So I'll show you how both sides would approach it. Maybe we can actually, this is really interesting to look at, I think, because again, this is kind of your classic English territory. Again, you know, the only difference is you might see a knight on F3, and, you know, it could be either way really, but you're going to see the same themes in terms of, you see the knight on C3, pawn on C4, bishop G2. You see how they're all homing in on the D5 square, and then black's got this pawn chain. Again, maybe they don't play F5, maybe they keep it more like they're trying to play a King's Indian, but it's not. As I said, they're treating it like it's something else. It's not a King's Indian because white has not pushed all these pawns out. White has played more conservatively in that sense. So you can imagine, what if it's a King's Indian G3? White would have even more weaknesses. They'd be more accessible. So anyway, but yeah, this very aggressive version, we can learn from this. So yeah, A5. But the thing about this, when they play B4 and you trade, opens up the rook on the A file. So at least what black's like, hey, I get something. You're gonna play B4 anyway. Hey, give me an open line, right? Makes sense, right? And then the bishop's aiming in there. So white's like, I'll get off that. I'll get away from the scope of your bishop, and I'll make my thing happen. And like I said, loosen up that diagonal. The bishop's just hankering to get in there, right? So we have A3.
But black is looking pretty good right now with that knight sitting on F6,
Yep.
G4, and the queen sitting back there. Black is looking pretty nice.
Well, and black, and that's why, that's what I'm saying, it's pretty legit, because the two GMs did this against me. So that's what I want to show you. I think this is a great system for white, and this is probably a very good. It's aggressive. It's a little weakening, sure, but it's aggressive. And you can always move your king over, or you could play bishop here. Now, keep in mind, bishop E6 will get hit. If the knight's here, I'll get hit by knight G5. So you might want to play H6. The king can tuck away too in many cases. But right now, you can just get bishop E6 in. Pretty straightforward, right? White can still go for the knight G5. But black's like, look, I just want to throw my pawns at you. So I'm going to show you the tension. Why don't we look at a win for white and a win for black? I think that should be pretty representative of how to handle the English. I mean, and again, you're going to see many nuances. But I think we can find some games here to kind of play around with it. Again, I'm just showing you kind of how you can explore this. But this is certainly topical here. Again, with or without this. But I do think that this is the most aggressive. And the GMs agreed, right? So I agree. So we have A3, bishop E6. Now, sure, but keep in mind, black would love to go D5. Like, let's say white does something random, like, well, there's B4. Okay, that's not that random. Are they going to go for it? They're taking. Are they playing D5? Yeah. Why not? So you can see it's, you know, black's getting some. It's still, computer still likes it's drawish in the games. See B5, sure, why not? It says D4 or takes. Let's look at it from white's perspective for a second. I mean, it's annoying, right? But like, keep in mind though that white has a lot of pressure against the center, even though black is expanding. That's why it's saying white's still doing better, because there's a lot of pressure against the center. Let's see, it's saying even D4. Interesting. That's kind of difficult to comprehend. I think let's do it with the B5. Let's go with B5. Knight moves, and like I said, by F4 you can start punching here as well. So let's see. We have like C takes D5 occurred, and 1 for white. Let's see what they did in that game. I mean, the computer likes queen out. It's pretty similar evaluation. Let's see what they actually do a few moves in. So it's takes. They went bishop D2, kept it modest. Queen came up. Queen came out, and they're going to be able to play on the file. So white's kind of get this kind of, now it's like a reverse Sicilian, open Sicilian, because they've traded the C pawn for the D pawn. It's open game now, right? Say the rook comes, oh, this is what happened. Rook F8, kept D1. Knight takes, bishop takes, covering the pawn with the rook. Knight D5, bishop tucked back to E1. That computer thinks it's about even. Actually, it likes black more now. It likes F4. They said no, it's figuring it out. I mean, it's saying about even. I mean, black still has that center though. But you see, I wouldn't mind having this with black. It's not that bad. But keep in mind that white does have that C file pressure. They do have that B5 pawn in there. They do have the diagonal pressure. See, and it's like this whole stuff over here is not really amounting to an attack because the lines have opened so much. So there's more like central action going on. But as you can see, computer says it's even. There's a lot of play for both sides. So certainly not a bad result with the black pieces out of, well, it's 20 moves in, but certainly black is doing fine, I think. What do you guys think? A little bit less clear what black should do. It was more like black's like, hey, I want to get my break in, and they got their break in. They didn't have to, though. Keep that in mind. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm having trouble finding a plan for black. Of
That's
course.
the thing, yeah. That's the thing. It's sort of like the English, even though black's going all out on the king's side. Yeah, it's not that clear what to do and I can hold them off. So we got D5, bishop F7.
Maybe the F4, like it was, I don't know when that was suggested, but like maybe some kind of busting open situation.
Oh, well, there you go. No, there you go. See, the computer doesn't recommend it. So what? Two people did this and they won. So that's relevant. They went for E4.
Oh, okay.
Now the computer hates it, but it won. Let's see what happened. So pawn takes. They made an accuracy second. Now we have knight takes. This was oh, I thought it was inland. There's a tournament in called Linares, the Super GM tournament. Okay, this was Miranda versus Linares versus Miranda. You have knight takes, pawn takes. What is going on? Did black sack a pawn for piece activity? No, he got it back. Wait, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bishop check happened. Queen takes. I'll just click on this. Okay, king moved over. So it's funny. The computer prefers white, black won. I mean, it could have been apart from it could have been irrespective of what happened in this position. But I don't know. It's just a very active, complicated position. Pieces are getting unleashed. Actually, I think black's a little more ready to go though, because this bishop still has to figure things out. The knight can go here, but black can come in the middle. This rook is already on that line, as you saw. So I don't know why the computer's saying it. So it must we're looking at one particular line maybe. But I think, oh, there's that. Yeah, that's annoying. But still. So B5 is played. The rook comes up. Queen goes back. Knight swings over here. See, he's using that weak square. Knight D4. Interesting. Takes on D4.
What?
So he's giving up that strong bishop, which guards his king. A little counterintuitive, right?
Yeah, but I guess that knight's super strong, so.
Yeah, true. And the other thing that's interesting, now you know what, I might think about going D5 here, although it weakens more dark squares. But it's interesting, it shuts down the bishop on this diagonal. You could stick your knight in here. That's interesting too. And then you start hovering around with your knight and stuff. What are they going for? Oh, but queen D7. No, here's the thing though. Like when you're realistic about it, like even if the bishop gets here and pushes and the king moves, there's not really any way to set up to orchestrate a mating attack immediately. I mean, it's there though. It's certainly there. You got to be careful. I mean, you got to be careful. There's not like a battery going on, right? That develops here. But anyway, let's see what they do. They go queen D7. D5 is naturally played. Queen F7 is played. Yeah, they check. Okay, well, we're going to be testing this right now. Okay, so again, I would think about doing this, wouldn't you? What do they do against this? Oh, that's nice.
What's going on? What happened?
Hopefully I don't lose connection. The rain's coming on a little bit. So yeah, oh, that's nice. You just take and you stop queen D4.
Yeah.
Oh.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is actually about to. Oh, that's terrible. Because now, if the queen moves, you might pick up a free pawn. And I mean, I don't know. You have to be a little careful, but there may be no effective discoveries. It's like, hey, maybe my knight wraps around. Maybe my rook comes in. It's like, yeah, it's kind of cutthroat because you're like, yes, I'm allowing you to have the bishop. But like I said, one remedy is to push and shut it down. The other one is just to be like, I'm just going to take the pawn, let you be out there, and I have to be confident enough in my assessment that you're not going to mate me. I mean, but think about it. No, think about this. Worst comes to worst, even if the king had to go here and your rook has to go here, or your king, like as long as you're covering a bit, or maybe your queen is hanging around on F8 or something. But yeah, like even if let's say you're here, king runs here, can't come in, you get taken. So like that's worst to worst. Hopefully they'll be able to orchestrate that defense. Or the knight might swing around with tempo and come here and check, or hopefully not get hit. But anyway, it's interesting, right? Just to show you how things might go. But that was obviously something they had to think about. This came up in this game. They were both thinking about that, I'm sure, about whether like probably white's like, you want to take? Great, I'm going to have that bishop on the diagonal. Black's like, nope, I'm playing cutthroat chess. I'm playing uncompromising chess because I believe in my position. Oh, look, I mean, this is basically falling. Well, if they go here, you have like, maybe you like triple up or something. You have a lot of stuff you could do. Maybe now I would, if it were me, I would probably play knight c4 and then get the rook in there. So you want to triple, you're gonna come this way. And the knight covers b2 for the bishop. So, and you can even reroute here to win this pawn. So I think black's got it going on here. Let's see. Maybe not knight c4 then. Well, let's see what it says. Queen f7 says white. It looks white a tad. It's saying so bishop b2. We looked at this. Oh wait, what was the line that I looked at? Oh, I don't know. Wait, where was I? I was looking at this line. So rook d1. Yeah, it's saying knight c4. This move or rook e8 or king. It's saying king g8. Yeah, just get away from it. I kind of like knight c4, but I guess just get away from it. And it's saying it's about even actually, or it likes white okay. But I think anyway, this is what happened. No, it agrees with this though, with taking. Interesting. Anyway, it got messy. Got very messy. And you can see that just a lot of play on both sides. But in playing e4, point is, I think Nikki, that goes back to your idea of like trying something else, like busting open the position in a different way rather than d5. But that actually ended up working out for them in this game, right?
Yeah.
So you can see, but interestingly, speaking of transpositions, then it in that line where you play d5, it becomes like an open Sicilian reversed. Gets a little wonky. We're getting a little wonky, but look, yeah, this is all. It gets a little complicated, I know, with all the different names and stuff. But think about it: take. See, an open Sicilian would be, after e4 c5, you have like, or a regular reverse would be like the e pawn and the c pawn here, right? And then there would be the push. No, you go back to I don't move away from it, but you see what I mean, right? There would be c4 e5, and the open Sicilian would be where black is going to break in the center with d5. If they don't, they go knight c6 and d6 as we were. But when that early break happens, that's an open Sicilian. But it happens just delayed on 13 now. And now we have an open Sicilian with the inclusion of this. Now it's 11 fish variation reversed or something. But basically, for this Grand Prix type setup, which again is pretty good for black. Question is just, do you want to push? But it's a thing. Yeah, it's viable. Black can do that if they choose. But as you can see, it creates a lot of play across the board. It opens things up. And black does have to be careful about the diagonal. So like the e6 square, you saw the knight coming in that one line. I just saw that happen yesterday in my own game. So you have to be careful about that stuff. Anyway, so we were looking at, we were going to see there was another line, right? That was very similar. Wait, we're here at 5. So we're seeing from both, again, we were looking at from both sides. So we're looking at this thing. Yeah, we were wondering, okay, what is black? Now let's see what white can do again. So we saw a game where black won. It was a messy game, kind of both sides. Now, often white will go with b3 instead of even going with committing to a3, b4. Let's see when it works for white to go there. You can certainly go b3, keep it tight, and I've seen Carlsen and Kasparov do something very similar.
What's the plan from there though? Like I thought the whole plan is like a3, b4.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's interesting. It's kind of like, okay, fine, I'm not going to stick with that plan right now. But I'm going to quickly develop and be like, well, maybe I can use that square. You weaken things too. But yeah, certainly a3, we're going to look at that because that's consistent. I'm funny at the computer. I'm going to get rid of the computer now for now. So a3, let's get away from all that for a second. Let's go back to just fundamentals of the game. So a3, and then we have bishop to e6. And let's get our, now funny enough, oh yeah. If you go and see, if you get hasty, that d5 is going to happen. And so really, when you see this coming, you probably should stop it. That's the whole point of playing for the d5 square. So if you go b4, let's say takes, is black getting his d5 in the same, basically getting a lot of play, and this ended up drawing sometimes. Yeah, ends up drawing. See, the computer says queen d. So again, you don't have to get d5. It's very active. You can go queen d7 too. But let me get to that actually in a second, because that's where you might want to play f4. But let's say d5, and let's say you take, and the knight takes, and then we've looked at, no, don't take with the bishop, because the knight's very happy to get rid of that strong bishop. Oh, yikes. That's winning. Pinned. Game over.
Yeah.
I just accidentally took with the bishop, but it shows you can't give up those light squares. That's important to understand. So it takes, takes. Are we trading queens? Get the b5 in. Why not get your b5 in? Interesting. It's saying e4 or knight c. Let's play with this. Let's see. Let's go along with this. But you can see this is interesting. This is weak on d4, but they can't quite access it. Okay, bishop c4. Yeah, I feel like I would probably play queen c2. I want to trade queens right now. Oh, that's annoying. They want to trade queens. Okay, fine. Takes, rook b2. Yeah, black has plenty of counterplay. Oh, yeah. It's very annoying. b6, c5. Rook here. Get off that pin. Bishop tucks back. Knight comes out. It looks pretty even to me. I think it's even. I mean, I think it's hard to evaluate. It's both sides have a lot of play here, right? And both sides have the weakness now. See, white can try to utilize d5 and black can try to come on d4. So anyway, so this is the thing, like that's why going back to this position, that's why you should probably, if you're trying to press for an edge with white, should probably stick your knight on d5. So not delay before, and look at the difference in the score. So d5, knight d5, 43% versus 22%. b4, not much going on. 22 versus 22, basically drawish, not much going on with b4. So you want to get your knight d5 in. Get rid of this for a second. Okay, I'll show you the book. So queen d7. And now looking for this f4 idea sometimes, right? Actually, yeah, it's looking at b4 too, but I would look for f4 at the right moment to shut this down. I'll show you. It's not really, I'm not really concerned about it at the moment, but I'd be looking for f4 at some moment. But it's a very solid position. Get our b5 in. Okay, let's just do something that your opponent might do. What might they do here? Well, they like this line. I doubt they'd give that up. Let's say they go, what would they do? I mean, knight g8 is foreseeable to guard this. Let's say they do the main move. And the winning move, the one that won was b5. Computer agreed. Queen c2 was not played. b5 seems pretty natural. Let's see how they won. And now we're looking at how white wins. And who is this between? So this is a 20. This is a 2250 being a 22-third. So about 100-point upset. Bishop f7. You see he's just anchoring in that knight. And I've transposed to another game that's been played. So you see you can do that often. I would usually try and get my bishop more active, but like here, but like this is fine. Sometimes the queen goes here and the bishop fianchettos, but like this is fine. You're just getting your pieces out. You got to connect those rooks. And bishop 96. See, there's that f4 move I'm talking about.
Yep,
you can see what's that?
Yep, you've called that. You said that was like you're looking for a time to play f4.
Yeah, because the thing that's going on here is that black is trying to kind of amalgamate all his forces over here. You want like g5, f4, right? So you're like, let me just stop this in its tracks. And you're fine to take back with probably the e-pawn. But then you'd be removing some of his center. And you'd be stopping this whole idea in its tracks. Like sometimes black might even get g5, g4 and a bypass. So what? What is it? Are they going to mate you? This is going to be, they don't have the h-file attack prepared at all. The queen's not coming in. The rook's not there. So there's really not much going on. I'll give you an example. Let's see what they do. So f4. But like, let's say, for example, like, let's say we did something else. If we had done, I don't know, queen c2, and then black goes g5 to go all out. Now, if we go f4 and they choose to bypass, for example, do they take, I mean, that'd be interesting to see which way I'd take. I'd probably take back away from, I might even venture g takes f4. It looks, it's pretty cold-blooded, right? Opening it, but no, why not? And I do not like, well, it's with tempo too, but I think you could do it. Let's see, it probably says okay. It says it's even. Look, I bet you, I wouldn't be surprised if it actually agrees with this g takes.
Yeah.
Because g takes f4, well, it's more uncompromising. But look at that, black is giving up all their center. You're still consistent with your diagonal. I can kick it out, but then like maybe knight 6. So they take control of one square, they lose control of another. It's hard to deal with the knight. You have this like kind of saucer in here. You can go king h1, rook g1, use the g file.
Does look like a saucer.
Yeah, it's pretty nice actually, right? So now you see why you might want to do it. Let's say they go g4. Like I said, it's not a concern. Okay, let's get a sense here. Is computer saying g4?
Wow,
I test it out. Knight takes. It's looking at knight takes, knight d5, and then d4. Let's do d4. See where this goes. It does weaken this square, but it's not that relevant. Saying pawn takes. You have to verify that. It's saying pawn takes in b6. That is interesting. Wants to smash through like that. Although fundamentally it would be knight. Fundamentally it would really be knight takes. Let's stick with that for a second.
Yeah, I take with knight.
Yeah, you can do that, but this is more fundamental. Let's stick to the fundamentals of the English, and that's hanging. So if they want to guard it, fine. And this just gives you a sense of how nice you look at that grip in the center now. Just a really nice position. And now you move this, you unleash this one. Oh, what about now? Let's shift here and come into A7. Things like that. You want to play B6, I can hop in with my knight to C6 or my bishop. So you can start to see you're beginning to dominate. Computer says 1.5. We like our position. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Right square. What does black do? Again, it's one of those situations where you took away the play. Look at how this bishop votes for the position. The knight's not going anywhere. So yeah, and there you go. You have a weakness on E4, but it's not exploitable at all. See? Nice grips. That's interesting. Anyway, that's going back to the F4 idea, just to give you a sense. So especially when they play G5, I'd want to get, and again, now you see the benefit again of playing E3. That's another reason. I think it probably just wasn't utilized early on in the English's career. But then people realized, I think the value of this, I've seen this quite a bit, F4 push. So a lot of GMs realized how strong it is. It started being played at a higher level. So it's kind of a little secret of the English, I guess I could say. Because like, you know, pretty much you're going to learn maybe, oh, just go knight F3. Why do you go here? Well, it's a pocket for the knight, controls D4, allows you to play G4 and F4. And hey, there's no saying you can't play E4 later. It's still flexible. That's the point of the English, why I like it a lot. It's ultimate flexibility. Probably the most flexible opening. I mean, other than like knight F3 on movement. But see, that's the thing. Like you might end up playing in English, but then maybe one English with knight GE2. So don't play knight F3, right? So, you know, it just depends what you're looking for. But the interesting thing about one knight F3, just as an aside, is that you stop E5. So maybe you're like, I want to play the English, but I don't want them to play E5. So I go knight F3, then C4. But I'd say don't be afraid of E5. You just have to roll with the punches, but it gives you a lot of chances. The black kind of has to go all out to make something happen. Otherwise, you're just doing better. You got the queen side play, you got the central play, the knight there. You see what I mean? So that's the thing. They have to prove that they have something. All right. So that makes sense so far, guys?
Definitely.
Where we are.
Yeah.
Okay, good. There's a lot of good stuff in this game. So knight C5, queen C in the last two games. So they go for queen C2, which the computer. I'm gonna take it off again so we don't ruin the kind of romanticism of this defeat of their victory, because we're gonna be like, oh, the English is cool because of this game. But no, I mean we're seeing objectively. But anyway, it says it's funny because it says queen C2 is equal. Like you should have taken an F6, you would have had +1. But we all know that. You look at the computer and it like spoils it for you, right?
Yes.
But no, I'm sure it'll come back because they won. So yes, anyway, they go queen C2. So don't listen to it too much. It'll vary move by move. Yeah, but you start seeing they're gaining ground, right? They're holding off the pawns. And the bishop covers E3. You got to be a little careful about this move, actually. But if they start doing that, you have rook E1. Keep an eye. But you have to look at the weak points. You know, these are both weak points, right? You have to be aware of that. So black's knight here is looking at the D3 pawn. Queen has to guard it. We got to deal with this one too. So rook A1. Okay, then knight takes D5 happened, and then I took back. No need to trade bishops. Let's keep our strong bishop, right? C6. Oh, it happened. So they took. Pawn took. Okay, now there's a direct threat on. That's a problem now, right? But understandably, they play E4 to shut it down. What do we do about that? See what he did. Did he bypass? He bypassed. It's kind of tricky because now the knight gets to come in if it wants. Oh no, my bad, it doesn't. That's why I played knight before. Otherwise, I was thinking if you get to come in, then that's a little annoying. That happens sometimes, but it's like, no, you don't get to come in because I just take and I'm very happy. I'm just up a claim pawn. And then the rook is still going to do stuff, right? I mean, this doesn't actually do anything. You just leave. Anyway, so yeah, they have to go back. So they went to E6. And once again, just like in the other position, that position was after pawn took and pawn took back with the G. But then so black had less center. Here, black gained more space. It's kind of like a French defense sort of thing where they pushed, reversed. But even though they got in there and black has, quote, more space in the center, they've pushed into white's territory, but what are they doing with it? Meanwhile, but they have one on our fourth rank, but we have, or let's say their fifth rank up, we have 3 on our fourth rank, and they're all aiming in, see? So it's pretty much favoring us actually spatially, even though we haven't invaded their territory. And maybe we don't want to because we would give up control of things by pushing it hastily, right? So this doesn't actually help, really. Okay, so it depends on the context. So then the knight comes into A6, attacks the rook. What's going on? Rook B7. Oh, support C5. Interesting. So allowing the push to happen, but then I guess he's just going to kind of go all out on the queen side. So they actually take. Oh wait, that's the end of the depth they'll give us. Let's see. I'll click on that now. Okay. So let's see how they win this now. And now you're seeing something beginning to develop here, right? So you push, and we have the weak pawn on c6. It's not massive. It's not a massive advantage. I mean, maybe black is fine, actually. Probably says black. I imagine black's okay. Yeah, black's actually doing pretty well. So it actually, no, it's not going to be like the ultimate example. But I think overall the play was pretty good. But let's see how they actually, just curious how they actually win. I mean, there is a weakness on c6. There is that. I mean, yeah, I don't think it's like a lost position. It just ended up winning for white. Oh, that's interesting. But then this happened. I mean, it's probably like a time pressure kind of thing. They take it, they can get it back. Oh, they just lost.
Oh.
Amazing.
Oh.
So, oh, that's terrible. And they just lost the game. Well, hold on. It's still a little complicated. Because if we come in for this one, we want to win this one. They're going to push. We take with check. Oh, it's mate. It's mate.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about that earlier. Yeah, that's the thing. We were trying to win the rook. It was like, no, that's actually a mate threat. Therefore, they have to lose. I mean, there's nothing to do. Nothing to do there. Yeah, I mean, if you move, you can move the bishop. Then, yeah, but then we can check. And then you could come back to deal with this. Actually, you can even do this move, not that move. You can even go here. So when they push, you just go here. And there's nothing to do to support it. I mean, okay, the bishop went here. Let's be fair. Let's give them somewhere else. I don't know. Here. Somewhere else. Okay, whatever. That's bad too. But okay, let's say check. But yeah, we can certainly, let's see, how do we deal with this? I mean, we just take if you
I was
want.
gonna say, just give it back and then just take
Give
the
it
pawn or
back.
something.
Yeah, and if they push the pawn, actually, it's
Oh.
sort of interesting.
Mm.
Sort of interesting, but it doesn't actually. No, funny enough, you can actually lose this.
Oh no.
You can actually lose this and you still win. But no, let's not make it that. Let's not make it
Yeah,
that.
that's not good complicate.
No,
Yeah, I was
let's
trying to
not do that.
simplify and
Yeah,
it got a little
okay,
complicated.
hold on. Let's see. So if they go here. Oh no! Yeah, wait. Do we take? No, they're going to come down though. Be a little careful. Actually. No, let's see. Wait, no. I think was the rook something? Was the king something? Let's see. Check if we want to. Okay, we got to watch out for this guy coming in. They push. It's actually pretty tricky. If you go here, and then let's say like check here. That's really annoying, actually. That's very annoying. Check. I don't know. We have to be a little careful. What do we do?
Bishop
When you
could
check them with
take
the rook, the
right?
bishop should have taken.
Do what? Do what?
Bishop could take rook b2, right?
Yeah,
does that?
bishop just take him when it's at b2.
Wait, take where?
When the king moves up to f2, and then the rook comes down to b2.
Oh, he's not allowed. Oh, he's not allowed to. Like, did I overestimate? Did I
Oh,
make him
backward
hang,
bishop.
Did I make him hang his rook? Did I make him hang his rook? Who hung up?
Yeah,
who headed up? Yeah. So where was the line? Oh, yes. Good point. So no, it doesn't work. Okay. His only hope then is to bring the rook there, maybe, but that's probably way too slow. I think we can still create some mating ideas too.
Yeah.
We might even. I think this might have been better too. But anyway, let's just playing around with this for a second. It is annoying. No, but it's very annoying. Okay, wait. What are we doing here?
No, you had the bishop the rook at b2.
No. I mean, no. That's then we just take it. Question is, what if they go here? Because now they're trying to push. That's not one. Oh, how about this? Let's go here, and let's just cover with the bishop this way. Because I was trying to get here. And then if they want to trade, just take the bishop. Yeah, that does the trick. Okay, the bishop moves away. I mean, whatever, somewhere else. I mean, it's annoying, right? It's just not going to work out for them. I mean, there's just, you just take it now, and you take the bishop. But I feel like, I just feel like it was even. They resigned, but I feel like it could even be like, this is interesting though. That's a mate, right? So they have to. What was it they were going to do? Like, they can't really go anywhere good though. Okay, let's say they. I don't know. Let's say they do this again. Where do they go? Let's say they go here. Let's give them something. Throw them a bone. Okay. How about rook takes? Maybe is interesting.
No,
push.
bishop
Bishop
checks.
takes, yeah. No, I think the remedy is that the bishop, if you want to be, unless there's like a mate threat. No, because you're setting up a discovery here, but I guess it's not enough. Because you don't want to lose that thing. So we check. Okay, they have to go here. I think we can just go here. And again, just cover like this. And they can win the bishop. It doesn't matter though, because you're gonna be up 2 pawns. By the time they get this guy. Yeah, and then you get this. I mean, you're on the 7th rank and you're 2 pawns up. And actually, that means you can come this way. You don't have to go back to defend. I mean, you're up 2 pawns. So it's a winning position. Computer will say like what? +4. Okay, let's double check with the computer just to see. I'm sure maybe it was rook take. I'm sure there was like some mating attack we could have done. Because they don't allow the first checkmate. They move the bishop. They play bishop. We just said bishop d6, for example. Oh, wow. Interesting. Because of this. Wait, hold on. They resigned. So they resigned right now. So that's the thing. I was trying to make it work. I'm like, this is complicated. Maybe they shouldn't have resigned. Okay, wait. Unless they lost on time. Okay. So rook a7, of course. Bishop blocks this way. It's trying to like do a little trap, like luring the pieces away. Okay, that's pretty hard to see though. Okay, let's say if you take, then we push. Because now you don't have time to come back, right? So that's crazy. So maybe, okay. But let's say they would do the argument we were looking at. Then this way, no, see now that I figured this would be strong. Push. Is it just saying check and wrap around? Oh, there's a mate. Check. 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 Mate. There's that, yeah. There's that too. Yeah, but that's crazy. Actually, funny enough, there is a draw if they had found that's a hard move to find though. That's a problem right there. That's the thing. I mean, I know it's good. Like this is more normal line. Bishop g7, second line is still getting rook takes. Push. Are we wrapping around now? Check. Take with check. Oh, it's still mate lines. Check, check, mate. Yeah, that's kind of like, usually think of bishops mating from farther away. Anyway, so yeah, they had to play this one. And then what's the best we got? Saying king f2. Yeah, because the deal is if you take, push. Wait, you have to let them. Oh, that sucks. You have to let them get it. There's really no way to stop it. It's crazy. And it says -0.2. Well, that's funny because we have 2 bishops for a queen. No, but black's king is almost.
And David, right there. If after the rook takes, and then the rook just moves right back over to b7, and you got to discover a check, and then as soon as the king moves, you just take the rook and.
And then you come. Well, there's no time. There's no time though. There's no time here. So like, so let's say takes.
Takes.
Push. Take with discovery or take with the bishop. You see, you can't get there. You just can't get there. And if you want to go back with the bishop, then you lose the rook. Wait, why are they promoting it? Do they have to do that? Wait, can't they take?
Wait,
They can take. They can take, and then yeah, that's just bad. So the point is that they're trying to. If the bishop wants to stop, it hangs the rook. That's the idea. So you take, they push uncontested.
Yeah.
Okay? That's the problem. And you can't get there. Yeah, you can't get back in time. So at least from here, you can go back. That's crazy. So what do you have to do? It says best moves king f2, rook d8. It gives white 0.4. Can we not make anything out of this? That's crazy. It's just basically it seemed like we were getting more out of it than we are, because the thing is we have to use it. Well, this is hanging now, so we have to go back. Push.
Well, that's probably why he resigned. It was too much work.
I mean, hey, he could have had this, but that's pretty hard to. I mean, I understand what happens. It's a psychological thing. You see, like, oh, I didn't see that. I'm lost. It's like that, and then you don't look for your resource. That's a crazy. I mean, you might have 30 minutes on your clock and not find that move though. Bishop b7. Just it seems like a spite move. Like, oh, I'm just gonna hang my bishop, But it actually works. That's crazy. Interesting. Anyway, going back to the game. But I bet you we can. Let's see. Interestingly, okay, Nikki, just to show you a nice example, let's just go here. Let's just look at like a really high ranked player, just because that was a messy win, as we saw. It wasn't actually even a win. Okay, let's look at how. Okay, look, we have Peter Leko. Just show one more. Oh, Vijit. We have Leko. We can pick one. So these are the Fiddler loses in 2000 when he was around his peak, I think. And Gurevich, funny enough, Gurevich they're both Russians. So Gurevich wins with white, and then Fiddler loses with black. So white's winning both of those games, both in the 2000s. But I would say maybe Vedit, or Leko. Well, Leko was one top in the world back then, or early 2000s as well, like around the time of kind of, you know, when Fiddler, because like Fiddler's not as active anymore, but like this was kind of the era of like early 2000s. We had guys like Leko and Fiddler and stuff. Kamsky was still active and all. Before Nakamura's time. It was just after that, right? So Nakamura is like what, since like more like 20, yeah, like similar to Carlsen, like 2015s. These guys are more like early 2000s, late 90s kind of thing. Bacro, yeah, Bacro was the big French player before MVL, MVL, and Maxime Vachier-Lagrave or whatever. So Leko, okay, let's see that. Let's see. Hopefully this is a smoother win, just to show you guys how to do it from both sides. And even with black too. I mean, I think we see it better with black. Let's just quickly look at it. So he's doing the B3 thing. Oh, funny enough, if I remember, I think this is the game where he gets his queen on A5. Let's see if I'm right. Maybe it's a different game. Yeah. Queen goes to A5.
Nice memory.
I didn't look at it. No, I actually remember because this is one of the games I used, learning B3. It's funny. So take stakes. I remember Peter like, okay, so take A7. So you just won a pawn. So it just shows you there are many ways you can play this. So you see the whole B4, B5. You don't have to just move your B pawns to get a queen side attack. Oh, there's your G5 thing. Is he gonna go F4? I doubt he's gonna do F4, really. He might not do F4 here, it's a little different. He goes F3, interesting. So he blocks the bishop. Because yeah, he's like has to worry about his E3 pawn and stuff. So he's gonna open it up yet. It's like, look, I'm up a pawn. I just want to stay solid and win with my extra pawn. And look, that's what I'm talking about. So he's changing to light squares. So he's gripping, and that helps him guard his D5 pawn, right? It's like, okay, what are you gonna do? Oh, now I'm hitting you on both. I'm ready to go. Computer gives +1. Which is up a pawn. It's the queen pawn, no compensation. It's fine. Oh wait, is he giving it back? Oh, that's interesting. He's getting a pawn, he's giving it back, but he has all this play on F6 and stuff. Then he blunders. Oh, that's kind of cool. So his queen, suddenly his queen just violently gets back into action from A7. And then forks them and wins the exchange at least. Because like once the king moves, let's say you take them and they take you, yeah, it's just up an exchange and game over. No, not only that, but just you're mopping up. They have to guard the knight. Yeah, mopping up a bunch of pawns in exchange. So anyway, that's kind of a messy one, but it just shows you like many ways you can do this. And okay, again, to be fair for black, I want to show like a really good win. Will probably be the games where someone beat me. Oh, that'll be interesting. Hold on, let me see if somebody beat me in this position. There we go. Let's see how I lost in 2015 in this exact same position. So if I'm going to show my own game, let's show a loss. Why not?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's the thing. I should do that more often. It's good to show your losses. I mean, I don't show my
I like
games
to hear your
generally
thought process.
Yeah, what's that?
It's useful to hear your thought process, you know?
And yeah, like I should do that more often because I mean, it's just I just don't often like pull up my own games. It's almost like I just don't think about that kind of thing too much. You know, like I'm not
Yeah,
gonna,
you don't want to be like
I'm
one
not
of
gonna
the,
like obsess over my own stuff. You
right,
know
right.
what I mean?
You don't want to say like,
But
oh, I'm so smart. Look at what I did here and here and here. But
right,
like,
there's that. No, but even like for myself, I just don't. I mean, I think about it in terms of lessons learned. I guess it's almost like don't want to look back, sort of thing, maybe.
oh,
But
okay.
it is useful. But it's almost more like I don't like to collect in that sense. It's like, look, it's like you did it. Yeah, move on. You know.
Hmm.
But no, but it's good in terms. Oh, it's almost like I view it like almost being materialistic. It's like you're almost like clinging to your games, like they're material. But
You just
no, I
let them
guess like
go. I like
yeah,
that.
no, but it's in your mind though. It's still in your mind.
Yeah.
But no, they're in database. I guess I'm lazy too. Maybe it's a little laziness, and I'm being too lazy to like organize it. But that's just not what I'm more interested in other people's games, I guess. So castles, it's just teach their own on that, you know.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people have their books. Like for example, yeah, Stillman, like he mentioned a lot of his own games and other GM games. Some people they just mention their own games, right? But he
Yeah.
brought up his games when they were
Monty.
relevant, but he knew what he was thinking. What's that?
Like Sunil. And like he did almost all of his games in the
yeah. FM, yeah, he's Nakamura's dad, right? So anyway, no, he's stepdad, right? So D3. So here's how I lost. So I went for the rook B1. I did A3. Who is the opponent is like a 2271. I'm a 2163. This is a blitz game. Hopefully I still got a winning position and messed it up.
Hi,
We'll see.
Lynn.
See you, Lynn. Oh yeah, we're getting late anyway, but I'll
Yeah,
just show
yeah.
you this one quick.
Okay.
See, here we go. So I go f4, they take with the g pawn, I take away with the e pawn. So we're gonna see how this is, we're gonna see this in action. Hopefully it still worked out for me in terms of getting a good position. We'll see. So b4 takes. I'm not using any computer analysis, just have this. You have the King's English time and off variation. Okay, but we have queen h5. He's going for it. Hopefully I didn't blow that. Just let him do what he wanted. And knight comes in, we take. Okay, we're trading queens. It's not that bad. I think this result's actually completely fine. Now his pawn is hanging. So he moves his knight. Oh, that's where things got uncomfortable. He got into e3. That was nice. Yeah, that was nice. So his knight became very strong. My bishop's strong though, but I'm a little underdeveloped. So the result of this exchange was not ideal. Question is, could I have done it differently? Because I'm like, oh, it's a blitz cam. Let's just take it. Let me check real quick. Maybe I could have taken first. It likes my position a lot, funny enough. So it's takes, just to see the line that it says. It's the same thing. Oh, I should have gone knight g5. Duh, what was I thinking? Because the problem is the knight became problematic. Oh, and then I would have traded off. My knight became problematic. And it was bad for me, and theirs was good for them. So I would have traded that off. And then if they take it, now I kind of have what I want. And then I just develop, and I'm happy. My pawn structure is nice, you know?
That
And it
makes
says
sense though. You were going
+3.
after the pawn. You wanted that pawn, right? That was like why you went back there.
I guess. I don't know. I was just,
I
it's a
guess
blitz
it's-
game. Well, how much did I spend? Does it say how much time I spent? I'm curious. Maybe only on the analysis book or something. But, oh, move times, let's see. Just curious, since when you analyze your own game. I don't know which move. Oh, wait. What move is this? Knight. Where are we? 6 seconds.
Oh, okay. Never
Yeah, I
mind.
didn't spend that much time on that bad move. I should have spent more time on that. But it just, it's like a natural move. I mean, I'm like, move my knight away, look at your pawn, you know. Oh, maybe I was like, oh, I don't know, maybe I'll like come here, like reroute to f3 or something, who knows. But anyway, no, I mean, no, actually I had a very concrete idea. Actually, it made sense. They'll go knight here and then bishop e2 and literally try to win his pawn. But it just didn't work out that way. Let's see what he did. Or whoever they are. Let's see what Hartort did. H-A-R-T-U-R. Hartort 224. So I go bishop e2 as I wanted. He goes knight e3. It still likes white here. Interesting. Okay, it says I should have gone to d2. The problem is this rook's going to come in too. It's a little unpleasant. Yeah, that's where things go downhill. But no, okay. At least I could say I had a good position. Like, this is not a bad position at all. You know, I just played it wrong. It says computer's saying, yeah, I should have gone knight c1. Sure. What about king f3 too? That makes sense to me. Let's say they want to bring like, what if they got like rook e8? Oh, it's just falling. It's just falling now. So, but by going to g1, what's the difference? Oh, the difference is that if I take with my knight, he snatches the bishop. Like, let's say he does this or whatever. If I take with the knight, boom, takes game, fork, and he's up a bishop. There's two bishops. No, he'll take this one to be up a bishop. Yeah, but that's bad. And similarly, the other way you'd have something similar. But so I should go kick him out first. Oh no, this is what happened. Okay, so now things start going in his favor. No, that's what it is, right? That's the other thing. That's what happened. So I kind of remember that game. Yeah, so he takes on e2, I take back, bishop takes check, and 2 pieces for rook, which will not be pleasant. It's just not going to be pleasant. The 2 bishops are going to dominate the rook. It's funny though, the computer still says I'm okay. 3, 4, 5. I don't know. I like black's position, but here's the thing. Actually, the bishop on a6 doesn't do anything. Oh, then I hung my rook.
Okay. But before that, like
yeah, it wasn't that
bishop,
bad.
it's so hard to see that. I have such
I
problems
probably
with
was down on it, but no, the bishops are hard to handle, real. But yeah, so it says, so I was okay. But it's
more than okay.
So it shows you the whole f4 thing, and it says white's doing well. What's that?
You were more than okay.
But yeah, you see the f4 thing carry. It wasn't like an embarrassing game. It was only to the extent that I hung a piece, which is fine. Right? Which is fine. It happens.
Yeah,
happens to all of us. Okay, so then he goes. They go queen h5. In b5, it likes knight g5. Yeah, it's like b5. Yeah, the only other thing would be if you take. I don't think taking helps me. The only benefit of taking is that it would actually, like, let's say, if they take back, it's not good for their structure. Because now I have a target right there. Oh, let's say they take. I'd have a target on f5 later. Probably same thing, knight d5. Let's say they take. And then this is just a weak pawn. Beautiful, beautiful position, right? Just great bishops. I want to take care. I just challenge them here. And it's just great. The computer says +6. I don't know about that.
6.2.
Huh?
What, +6?
That's interesting, right? If you're playing this game yourself, you're like, well, it's a nice position. I watch out for black's rook.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a bad position though, because the king is stuck in the side. They have a lot of weaknesses. The bishops are great. But what if they go like this? Oh, then they lose the pawn. See, it's very bad position. They can't do
Yeah,
anything.
they're
Oh, and
just
that
like
pawn's
almost like stuck, like zugzwang almost.
yeah, it's a very difficult position. So you can see anyway, that's what could have happened. This kind of thing. No, they would have had to take my queen first. No, but anyway, this is what they did. So I take here, we trade queens, which I was okay with because I knew they were trying to attack, right? I'm like, worst comes to worst though, even if they did get in, you could play h3. They go back and they can't actually do anything else. Knight d4 takes. Knight d5 is what I should have done. Anyway, yeah, so it went downhill a little bit. It was okay at the third, but I should have played rook d2. It's all like reasonable enough moves, right? And I should have kicked the rook out though with knight c1. Maybe wrapped this way, but even so, somehow, oh, this was the wrong move. What it was is that, and I walked in. That's was the turning point. I walked into the tactic with rook takes e2. So basically, king g1 was tactically the wrong move. That's interesting. So let's say they go rook e8. I should then adjust. Because again, like let's say something random happens, like oh no, let's say I take. They take this one again. Boom. Well, that's just hanging anyway. Never mind. But you know, even if they do like, even if they don't challenge me, this is still a blunder because of take. And if I try and take this one, they take me with check.
I see.
Oh wait, yeah, they're still the bishop. Yeah, see. So no matter what, it's bad. And then if I take this way, let's just say give them the rent. This is even worse because then they take this, and as we saw, that collapses the position. And then actually, you do have rook f2, but that's actually when it's bad. Like this game, it was like apparently drawn. This one is bad. So now we have two bishops for a rook, but one of them is winning the rook. So winning the exchange, meaning they're going to be up an entire piece. I mean, what do? Yeah, they don't have to take. They could take if they want. It doesn't really matter. But if you, the threat is greater than the execution, right? Hey, maybe you decide not to take it. Just sure, why not? Stop the rook.
Yeah, just improve
Okay,
and
get off the pin. Wait for them to get off the pin. It gives them a free move. What's that?
Yeah, so you throw in the free move first, then take it. That's
yeah, exactly.
Fun.
There's no need because you know you're gonna take it anyway. Hey, maybe you decide not to take it. Maybe you can use it like in the other example as a. Well, we did see some cool examples we can use as a mating attack, but but again, as it should have gone if they found the brilliant computer move bishop e7. But anyway, in this case, it works for them. But yeah. So it just shows you though that if it had gone my way, it would have been good. The strategy.
Yeah, it was a completely like dominating position, except there was just like, you know, it was a blitz game. So what are you gonna do?
While we're on it, let's just quickly see to vindicate myself. No, well, this is interesting because this is an example of. And anyway, I can at least explain it well since I played it, but I mean, better than another person's game at least, but yeah, I did the thing like this, right? This works too, obviously. You can do this too. And then I did f4 again. I love f4. Same exact. That's funny.
Yeah,
the same thing happened. But this is really bad for them because now they took again and they have a really weak f pawn. And I've liberated all my pieces. Basically, I just need my bishop out there. Beautiful knight.
Oh, I like that move.
Okay, we trade. What am I doing? Am I taking? Oh, I get rid of it so I can bring my bishop out because I don't want to get hit by knight here. So I simply, because I know I'm going to bring my other one in. Probably not perfect play or anything, but it's like very comfortable position. Oops.
Oh.
and that's that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice technique.
Thanks. Just crawling on the weaknesses.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's interesting though. No, but you saw the weaknesses on the dark squares. So interestingly, even though I'm playing now, this is a great example of the light square controlled d5. Now you see what's going on with that, right? You see it definitely.
Yeah, that d5. I wrote that like the first page 1.
Yeah, that's exactly what you want, right? No, so, I mean, the thing is, by understanding this opening, I mean, I've had many wins like this. Similar scenarios. You get to come in, you get to control it. You end up winning the b pawn so many times. You end up with the rook coming in here. You end up like, you know, with your knight coming and forking them, or you're supporting your rook or something, or you play f4 and you win the f pawn. It's like, or maybe there's like so many different manifestations of it, and that's why it's such a rich opening because every single time you could win in many different ways, which is fun, right? No, but you learn about things. But again, as for Black's perspective, it's not easy. Like this is them going all out. But like I said, that's why I'd probably recommend this for Black, but I also recommend doing this to shut them down. But even so, that there was the GM who ended up winning like this. over time. Like he kept it what he did, here's what the GM did though. He didn't take it all. He did like this. And he kept it there, and he studied building. That's how he got. And then he like built. Then he broke through because nobody wanted to take. I don't want to take him and help him bring his pawns to the middle more, or create fluidity in his pawns. I want to make his pawns more rigid. Because the second he gets to push these. So anyway, he handled it. He kept the tension. That's how he beat. I remember that much. Anyway, yeah, I pretty much got what I wanted. I mean, in this sense, so obviously I was playing for bishop d4, but in this case, like, he's still in the game. It's not great. Let's see, computer probably says I'm a little better, but not like over. Yeah, exactly. It's like plus 0.5 or so. But yeah, let's say he goes rook e8, and I probably have to like, let's say I bring the second one in. Sure, why not? What is this bishop going to do? Karpov bishop, tuck it back. But yeah, it's a very comfortable position, but you can still see there's a lot of struggle left. I always like to rook. Oh, that makes sense. Let's do that. But there's still a lot of struggle left. But anyway, we get what we want. We have good pieces. I mean, obviously I like it, right? The knight's space advantage here. The knight's great, pawn here. But hey, because he did a5, at least they could claim that they have a rook in here. And at least the bishop on g7 got to blast open. So because of that, if white's not careful, black's counterplay will strike hard. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And like, again, like I stopped knight g4. Maybe this knight will support the pawn. No, it's nothing. Just take it. But anyway, yeah, so hopefully that's helpful. So many different ways you can do English. You learn about the flexibility of it. And you just learn about, like any opening you learn about a whole bunch of strategies associated with that opening. Does that make sense?
Yes, and it's funny that you bring up the English only because my coach is just saying like, you should start playing the English. And I was like, no, I don't play the English.
Well, now you know enough to probably try it.
Yeah, now I'm gonna try it.
Try it now. And now you have my recommendation of c4, knight c3, g3, bishop g. Oh, the funny thing is
I like the e3.
I diverged actually since I mentioned it. I read this book right here. There's a bunch of chess books, and random books, but this Mihail Maringe on the English opening. So he recommends, like when he talks about certain systems, like reverse Sicilian. I think he just recommends the Botvinnik system. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take what I want from this. So like Hauska, also Kara Khan, Hauska, I think it is. She's a British, is it Hauska British IM? She's not a W, she's not a WM, she's an IM, I think. She actually wrote Game Changer, if I recall. But anyway, so she wrote the Kara Khan book, and I took what I wanted from hers and did one line that I like on my own. Same with this one. I took most of his lines, then instead of going e4, I like e3. So and I found that by looking it up and realizing, hey, e4 has its drawbacks. So I kind of took from here and there, but I mostly took. I learned a lot of the English, by the way. There you go. End it with that.
Okay.
English opening by Mihail Marin, very in depth. You can learn a lot of good stuff. And he recommends c4, e5, g3 immediately. So you'll learn a lot. And this is mostly c4, e5, I think. But then you have another book about symmetrical and all that. All right, well, nice job, guys. You have any questions?
All right, thank you so much for your time, David. I know you did a nice long class today.
All right, I know you probably got to go. Yeah. All right, see you, Nikki. Take care.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure thing. And Richard, yeah. And hey,
I do appreciate that. I think sometimes I get problems with the opening, but as I play, I play one game with c4, e5, knight c3, knight f6, e3, d5, c captures, then knight captures, and bishop c4. Then I play bishop e6, and then you play queen b3.
Wait, for white or for black?
For black, but
okay.
it's a little bit. I don't know if I should. Let me share my screen.
Yeah. This is Fisher.
Wait, yeah, but then
E3.
This is my game where I get into a little bit of trouble. So I do appreciate knowing.
Wait.
You said the best move is here.
Go back real quick. Oh, that's kind of cool. It looks like pretty much like a real board.
Yeah, but this is the game where I.
Just press forward. Yeah, just go. Just press arrow forward. So we see him. Just press arrow forward on it.
Okay.
Or go to analysis.
Okay. So there's that, then captures and knight captures.
Okay, but you play the English. Oh wait, you're playing black?
Yeah, I'm playing black because I don't.
Because this is without G3. But this is different because this is with E3.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, but as you can see, when you're playing, so effectively what you're doing is it's a reverse. So you're playing as if you have the white pieces against a Sicilian, and the Sicilian already has enough sting as it is. So white's playing a Sicilian with an extra tempo, and so yeah, you're just going to get sharp. White's going to have a lot of pressure on you.
Yeah, just that was the best move, but it's an OTB game. I couldn't.
Yeah, I guess you don't want to give them too much center. I guess, huh? It's a move.
And then this is the mistake.
And then they have like what, Queen B3 stuff? Like Queen B3 stuff.
Yeah, correct. And then I play
Yeah, but you can
E6
see, no, the
instead.
idea there is that white's gonna get a lot of quick pressure. Because again,
Correct,
it's like
correct.
he's playing a Sicilian at tempo up. And they're not doing
Yeah.
G3, Bishop G2, they're just smacking the center, Bishop smack in the center. Now, if you're
Yeah,
playing a
correct.
regular, yeah, that's kind of like that con variation or something, time out
Yeah.
variation. But it's like,
Yeah.
and that's an aggressive variation. So you're wondering how to handle that?
No, I think I figure out, but I got to do night captures, and I just have to figure, just try not to limit, play a little bit too passively and defensively and not counter attacking much.
Yeah, well, a
So
lot of times when you're playing black against an open Sicilian, you'll probably want to play knight to B6. You'll
yeah,
have one
correct.
knight on C6, you just tucking out of B6. So again, you're not going to play like as aggressively, like you can't play like a Yugoslav attack. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And they're going to
Yeah,
hit you quick with D4, as if when white castles queenside, black hits in a quick at D5.
Yeah.
So it's just it's just shouldn't really happen that you get like a Yugoslav attack. So you'll have to treat it like almost like more of a classical approach to a Sicilian. But yeah, probably would tuck your knight on B6, keep it tight, and then maybe you get F6 or Bishop E6, F6, maybe A5, A4, pressing the queen side a little bit, play more positionally. But the big thing is obviously the knight coming to D4 because but now they played E3.
Yeah.
I'm thinking more like G3, Bishop G2, try to get like knight on D4. But yeah, so it shouldn't give you too much problems. But definitely I would say with black, I'd probably recommend the closed Sicilian, reverse closed Sicilian against it, or symmetrical. You could play a symmetrical.
Yeah, the close is
you could play like
great,
symmetrical English and like get a hedgehog or something would be fine also.
Yeah. Okay.
Or if you love to play, again, like I said, if you love to play D4, D5, you could just play E6 and D5 or C6.
Yeah, correct.
All right, Richard. Well, great job. I'll see you next. Hopefully you can make it next week. Say hi to the folks at the chess club.
Okay.
All right. Take care.
All right. Bye.